Chapter 81. Rob? Jiang Jiao stuttered, what Rob? We've already arrived here, and the time and place are in our favor. If we don't rob them, wouldn't we be letting God down? She called Wang Ba, Brother Wang, this time you're going to do what you're used to doing. Don't you remember the rules? Wang Ba was a little angry, but also a little proud. He only said, of course I know. Then let's go step on the plate first. What do you mean by step on the plate? Jiang Jiao was confused. I know this, Huang Xiong explained for him, Lulan slang means scouting the surroundings first. Wang Ba snorted and said to He Yan, you even know the jargon. I only know this one, He Yan said, if no one has any objections, how about I make the arrangements? Everyone looked at her. The terrain here is high, and we've arrived early. By the time the other groups arrive, they'll be tired and relaxed. All we need to do is lie in ambush here and steal their flag. There are 5 of us. One person needs to go up the tree to scout the situation, and the others need to lie in ambush. That person will be me. He Yan pointed at himself. I'll be up in the tree. When the others arrive, Brother Wang will lead them into our circle. Brother Jiang Jiao and Shi Tu, one of you will hold a long staff, and the other will hold a long spear. Spread out to the left and right. Uncle Huang will hold the rear, so we can surround them in the middle. At this time, I'll come down from the tree, and my 9-section whip will take the opportunity to sweep away their flag. Everyone suddenly understood. No wonder He Yan chose the 9-section whip. If a fight really broke out, they might not have the chance to get close. However, as long as the whip was far away, they could sweep the flag over. Why do I have to be the bait? Wang Ba was dissatisfied. I can hold the rear. Because you're the best, He Yan lied without batting an eyelid. If it were anyone else holding the flag to lure people over, they would definitely be suspicious. But you're different. You're the best among the recruits, so it's reasonable for you to snatch the flag. It's best that you hold it. Jiang Jiao wanted to laugh, but he held it in. Shi Tu and Huang Xiong silently lowered their heads. Only Wang Ba deeply agreed. His dissatisfaction with He Yan's arrangement immediately disappeared. But will this arrangement really work? Jiang Jiao was doubtful. What if they're stronger than us? Don't worry, we've already arrived here first. We've rested longer than them, so we have plenty of energy. Moreover, flanking them from the left and right, with both offense and defense, would only cause them to panic. Moreover, our goal is not to fight with them, but to compete for the flag. Military books say that those who first enter the battlefield and wait for the enemy will be lost. Those who enter the battlefield and rush to fight will be exhausted. Therefore, those who are good at fighting will not cause others to be injured. Among the 5 people here, only Jiang Jiao and He Yan had studied before. Before the others could react, Jiang Jiao looked at He Yan and asked with a complicated expression, "You've read military books?" "A little," He Yan answered. Huang Xiong looked at Jiang Jiao, then looked at He Yan. He sighed, "I remember you once said that you've read something called the Book of Arms, and now you say that you've read books on the art of war. With your ability, there will be a day when your name will spread far and wide and you won't be in the same place as us." "You flatter me," He Yan said with a smile. "Anyway, don't forget about us when you're rich." Wang Ba whispered. He probably felt embarrassed and added, "But you don't look like you'll be rich." He Yan shrugged and said, "Then let's find a place to hide first. I'll climb up the tree first. You guys eat and rest. Brother Jiang, give a flag to Brother Wang. Wait for my whistle. I'll use the partridge whistle as a signal. Once the whistle arrives, Brother Wang will take the flag and lead the others here." No one objected. They scattered and found a place to hide. He Yan found a tall camphor tree and climbed up with his head up. She climbed the tree nimbly. Wang Ba saw this and whispered, "She's like a snake with 4 legs." He Yan climbed to the top of the tree in one breath and found the most luxuriant spot to sit down. The wind was blowing and made her face feel cool. It was indescribably comfortable. Her position was high enough that she could see everything around her. Seeing that no other recruits had come up yet, she took out a small piece of biscuit from her bosom. She took 2 bites and drank some water. After she finished eating the biscuit and leaned against the tree branch for a few minutes, she heard rustling sounds coming from a nearby path. A group of recruits had come up. He Yen immediately sat up straight. She hid among the leaves and didn't move. She softly let out a partridge whistle and blew 3 times in a row. Her whistle was exactly the same as a partridge's. If she hadn't told them in advance, Jiang Jiao and the others wouldn't have been able to tell. Huang Xiong, who was hiding in the dark, gave Wang Ba a meaningful glance. Wang Ba hung up the water bottle, stood up with the flag in his hand, and walked outside. Perhaps it was because he was used to this kind of robbing business, but when he put on an act, no one could tell that there was anything wrong with him. After every 2 steps, Wang Ba looked left and right, as if he was a person who had just arrived and was scouting the way. As he walked, he bumped into the group of new recruits who were coming up the mountain. You. The recruit didn't have time to speak before Wang Ba covered his waist and ran back. It would have been better if he didn't cover his waist. As soon as he did, people saw the red flag at his waist. The recruit stared blankly and then became excited. He said to the people behind him, "He's alone. He has a red flag. Brothers, take it." Hearing this, the group of people immediately chased after him. Wang Ba seemed to be alone and didn't want to fight. He just ran and cursed, "Ba! Don't follow your grandpa. If you follow me again, I'll chop you up." The group of people saw the red flag in Wang Ba's hand as theirs. They laughed and chased after him, saying, "Then chop it up. Brother, hand over the flag and we won't kill you. I'll hand over your grandma. If you chase me again, I won't be polite." Wang Ba warned. "Who's the one being rude?" The group of people laughed and chased after him. When they ran into a dense forest, Wang Ba suddenly stopped. "What's wrong? You can't run anymore." The leader of the recruits laughed and imitated the bandit leader. "I opened this mountain and planted these trees. If you want to pass through here, you have to pay the toll." Wang Ba originally wanted to show off, but when he heard this, he was so angry that he laughed. He pulled out 2 huge axes from his waist, turned around and shouted, "How can a pheasant go up the Heavenly King Mountain? How dare you snatch it from me, your grandfather? I think you must have been blinded by lard, you're not muddle-headed." No one could understand his string of bandit words. The other party didn't want to waste time with him. He raised his sword and stabbed it toward the flag at his waist. At this moment, there was a sudden noise behind him. 2 young men suddenly appeared from the bushes on his left and right. One was holding a long spear, and the other was holding an iron rod. They were Jiang Jiao and Shi Tu. Another loud noise was heard. The bald man with the golden broadsword had already jumped in front of him. Just now, it was 5 against 1, and Wang Ba was scared witless. Now that the situation had taken a turn, it was like catching a turtle in a jar. There were ambushes in all directions. It was only 4 people, but they made it seem like there was an ambush on all sides. Those people were stunned for a moment, and their smiles gradually disappeared. It's an ambush. They're cheating. Along the way, they either used real swords and spears to rob people, or they hid in the dark and fought a fierce battle. It was the first time that they had a bait acting in front of them like a drama. The leader of the recruits gritted his teeth. "What are you afraid of? We have the same number of people. We're not afraid of them. Let's fight them." Turning around, the few of them rushed into the chaotic battle. To be honest, although these people each had their own strengths, they weren't 1 in a million. After all the recruits who came up the mountain today were outstanding talents of the Yangzhou guards. But the strange thing was that Jiang Jiao and the others had gained the upper hand as soon as they started fighting. First of all, they had been here for a long time. They had rested and eaten for a long time, and they had been saving their energy for a long time. On the other hand, the other group of recruits had just finished a long journey. They didn't even have time to sit down and drink water before they were caught in a chaotic battle. Naturally, they were in a passive position. Second of all, the way they arranged themselves was quite skillful. Jiang Jiao and Shi Tu were on the left and right sides, so that these people were surrounded from beginning to end. Huang Xiong's large saber was full of vigor, but it complemented Wang Ba's large axe perfectly. With 2 long weapons and 2 short weapons, they had both offensive and defensive capabilities. Unexpectedly, this recruit couldn't find any flaws in the other party's movements. Instead, he was constantly at a disadvantage. Jiang Jiao flicked his opponent's sword away with his spear and knocked his opponent's weapon to the ground. One of the recruits said, "This won't do. We can't get the flag. Let's retreat quickly." "How do we retreat?" the leader of the recruits said unhappily. "Find an opening and try." He wanted to break out of the encirclement several times, but he couldn't find an opening. However, if this continued, their own people wouldn't be able to hold on. "That's not right." One of the recruits avoided Huang Xiong's large saber and turned around to ask, "Why are there only 4 of them? Where's the last one?" "That's right. After fighting for so long, it was only 5 against 4. They were still missing 1 person, but because they were being suppressed so fiercely, they didn't notice. Now that someone reminded them, they immediately understood. The leader of the recruits said, "It's a trap. Pay attention to protecting the flag." As soon as his voice fell, he heard Wang Ba roar, "He Yan, are you watching a show? Come out." From the leafy camphor tree, a young man's brisk voice sounded, "I'm coming." Suddenly, a red figure appeared in the dense forest. The young man was talking and laughing like a yen. His posture was light and graceful, but in the eyes of the enemy, it was as if they were facing a great enemy. The man on the side didn't have time to hide the cloth bundle when suddenly, a long shadow rushed towards his face. He was startled and subconsciously let go of his hand. The long shadow was like a snake, nimble and winding, and it wrapped around the cloth bundle and disappeared into the distance. The young man withdrew his 9-section whip and sat on a tree. Smiling, he shook his hand and the cloth bundle fell to the ground. She was holding a flag in her hand. She smiled and said, "Thank you." Then she turned around and disappeared into the forest, leaving behind a sentence, "I got the thing, let's go." The rest of Jiang Jiao's people acted as if they had received an order. They were still fighting fiercely just a moment ago, but now they didn't want to continue fighting. They put away their spears and ran. These people were already half dead from climbing the mountain, and after a fierce battle, they were also exhausted. How could they catch up? After chasing for a few hundred steps, they were exhausted and could only watch as the group of people ran far away and disappeared. What kind of bandits are they? Someone was paralyzed on the ground. He gritted his teeth and cursed, "They are really lawless. What can we do? Thieves don't leave empty-handed." On the other side, He Yan was asking Jiang Jiao to put away the red flag in his hand. He snapped his fingers and said, "Let's go." "Where are we going?" Wang Ba asked. "To rob the next group." The pigeon was pacing back and forth on the window. Someone sprinkled some rice on his palm, and the pigeon landed on his palm. It obediently allowed someone to take the copper pipe from its leg. After Xiao Ju finished reading the note, he handed it to Shinhan and shook his head with a smile. The words on the note were very simple. It only said one thing. He Yan had set up ambushes all over the mountain. He had become a robber and had stolen the flags of several new recruits. Fighting for the flag was all about fighting for the flag. However, fighting for the flag in such a secretive and open manner was really unique. From the beginning, they only thought about the flag. They did not want to fight with the other recruits. Even when they set up ambushes later on, they still prioritized the flag. Those who did not have a flag did not even try to rob them. They just let the others walk past them. Those who had a flag took advantage of the situation and ran away after robbing them. In the end, they lost the least amount of money and obtained the most flags. He really knows how to curry favor. After a long while, Chin Han squeezed out these words. Not only does he know how to play tricks, but he also knows how to use troops, Xiao Ju said. Using troops. Close to serve far away, waiting at ease for fatigue, and waiting for hunger with a full stomach. He curled his lips and said slowly, the Liang province guard recruits have all been played like idiots by him. Shin Han was speechless. This young man really made people speechless. He suddenly remembered something. Speaking of which, these 5 people all treat him as their leader, and there are no objections. Actually, when it came to fighting for the flag, other than fighting with the other recruits, there were also disputes within each group. Everyone's habits and tactics were different, so it was not necessarily harmonious. Some small groups would even fight for the right to command, resulting in nothing in the end. Knowing how to cooperate and make arrangements also showed the abilities of the recruits. From this point, it could be said that He Yan already had the ability to mobilize troops. Of these 5 people, other than Shi Tu, the others had all had conflicts with He Yan. However, at present, no one was arguing with He Yan because of this. This was also one of the outstanding aspects of this young man. These people are not bad. Shin Han thought for a moment. Jiang Jiao and the others are slightly better than the other recruits when they fight. Up until now, they have not lost a single battle. Commander-in-Chief, do you think these people are qualified to enter the vanguard? Xiao Ju laughed softly and did not comment. It's not that they are strong, it's because He Yan has set up a formation. A small group that has set up a formation and a group of scattered soldiers can't be mentioned in the same breath. Commander-in-Chief, you mean? Shin Han seemed to understand. Spread out like a crane's wing on the left and right, with the general in the middle and back. Can't you see? Xiao Ju said. He used 5 people to set up the crane wing formation. Probably because this news was too shocking, Shin Han did not make a sound. If a recruit knew how to set up a formation, then it could be said that there was something wrong with this person. Shin Han hesitated for a moment. Maybe, it's a coincidence. Whether it's a coincidence or not, we'll know soon enough. Xiao Ju said. Fei Nu, the black-clothed bodyguard, quietly appeared behind him. Young master. Send a message to the other captains on White Moon Mountain. He picked up the teacup on the table and took a sip. When going down the mountain, set up a formation. Commander-in-Chief. Shin Han was anxious. This will make it so that the other recruits won't be able to go down the mountain. Don't worry. The young man put down the teacup in his hand and turned to pick up the black chess piece in the box. In an instant, the situation changed. He said, someone will break the formation. On White Moon Mountain, under the cliff, a few people were hiding in the grass and counting the items. 1, 2, 3, 6. We got a total of 6 flags. Jiang Jiao was somewhat happy. Not even half. Wang Ba poured cold water on him. Why are you so happy? 6 flags is already very good, Huang Xiong said. Moreover, 3 of them were stolen. Of these 6 flags, 3 were found by He Yan and the others by taking a shortcut. The other 3 were stolen from the recruits who already had flags near the top of the mountain. It's still not enough. Go and steal more. Wang Ba put away his axe. If we get more than half of them, we'll win. He Yan shook his head. We can't steal anymore. Shi Tu frowned and asked, why? Now that the other recruits are going up the mountain one after another, the recruits who were robbed before will definitely go around telling people that we stole their flags. I think we're already notorious in these people's mouths. Those recruits who have flags will only be more vigilant against us. Moreover, we've already robbed 3 places, so our strength is not as good as before. Who said that? Wang Ba gestured to the others to look at his strong arms. I'm full of strength, so I'm not tired at all. I can still rob a few more places. He Yan said, oh. What if a few of them join forces? Wang Ba was stunned for a moment. He Yan spread his hands and said, we have 6 flags in our hands right now, which is equivalent to live targets. I think those recruits on the top of the mountain are smart enough to think of joining forces to steal the flags in our hands and divide them among themselves. 2 fists can't fight against 4 hands. 5 of us against 10, 20, 30, or even 100 people, do you think there's still a need to fight? Everyone was speechless. Then you tell us what to do. After a while, Wang Ba said impatiently. In this world, no matter how clever you are, if there's a first, there will be a second. We just showed them how to take advantage of the situation. Thinking about it, the following recruits would follow the same pattern. We don't have to compete with those recruits one by one. We just have to compete with the strongest team among the remaining recruits. Jiang Jiao's eyes lit up. You mean, when they fight, we'll be the fisherman who benefits? Let the remaining recruits stay on the mountain. It didn't matter if the east wind prevailed over the west wind or the west wind prevailed over the east wind. There would always be one team that won. What they needed to do was to rob the winning team and snatch their flag. This way, they should be able to have half a flag. So. Huang Xiong looked at He Yan inquisitively. Let's go down the mountain. Go down the mountain now. Jiang Jiao was a little hesitant. If we go down the mountain now, it's still early, and we can seize the opportunity. We'll hide on the path down the mountain. Regardless of whether the recruits get the flags or not, they will still pass by us. The team that snooped the most is our flock. You make it sound so simple. Wang Ba couldn't help but argue. The other party is not sheep. Since they can get so many flags, they must be fierce characters. We may not win. What you said makes sense. He Yan nodded. So the battle at the bottom of the mountain will not be easy. But it doesn't matter. We will definitely win. Why? The young man smiled in high spirits. Because I'm here. Chapter 82. The group of people walked down the mountain. This young man didn't seem to know what modesty was. Although he was confident, he wasn't arrogant. He always seemed to have a card up his sleeve. However, he also had the ability to convince others. At least until now, he had kept his word. Jiang Jiao carefully kept the 6 flags in his arms. After walking for a few hours, they were already far from the top of the mountain. When they were about to reach the middle of the mountain, He Yan stopped and said, let's rest here for now. Everyone sat down where they were, but He Yan climbed up the tree again and looked around. Wang Ba asked, what are you doing? Stepping on the plate, He Yan answered. You're so familiar with robbing. Why are you still stepping on the plate? Wang Ba snorted. You're pretending, aren't you? He Yan looked around and then climbed down the tree. He sat down on the sure too and said, this should be the last stop. Since we're using a trick, we have to succeed in one strike. Otherwise, with 6 flags, we might not be able to get first place. Will they really pass through here? Jiang Jiao turned around and looked behind him. The forest was dense and there wasn't a single person in sight. There are so many mountain paths and the mountain is so big. What if they take another path? There are only main roads and small paths on Mount Baiyue. He Yan smiled. People who carry flags should always be careful. If they take the main road, it's inevitable that they'll attract attention. They're afraid that other recruits will come and steal them. Therefore, they definitely won't take the main road. Among the small paths, this is the shortest way to the guard station and also the easiest way to find. You have to know that not everyone can remember the path they take. Therefore, it's very likely that they'll take this path. Huang Xiong quite liked to listen to He Yan speak. He asked, is this the military strategy you were talking about? This is called the theory of power. He Yan picked up a tree branch and drew on the ground for them to see. The imperial decree doesn't choose a place to wait for the enemy. Instead, we use simplicity to control complexity. We don't change to respond to changes. We use small changes to respond to big changes. We don't move to respond to movements. We use small movements to respond to big movements. Wang Ba asked, then we don't move at all. Wasn't that what you said? Haven't our methods been exposed long ago? Others might fall for it. Think about it. Since the other party has obtained so many flags, they must have won many matches in a row. Their morale must have risen greatly. If they were to face us, they might not necessarily lose. Even so, He Yan did not show any signs of anxiety on his face. That's why we're going down the mountain to conserve our energy. While we're at it, we can also find a good place to set up an ambush. However, I think that in the end, the most powerful people from both sides will be the ones to seize the flag. However, this is also natural. In the end, there will always be a victor between the most outstanding people. No one could answer her. Only Wang Ba gave her a sidelong glance and said coldly, "How are you the most outstanding person?" "I gave myself that title," He Yan answered sincerely. Wang Ba, "Anyway, let's eat, drink, and rest here first. When we're done, we'll set up the ambush according to our plan just now. I have already surveyed this place. The terrain ahead is dangerous and narrow. It is easy to defend and difficult to attack. It is advantageous to us. We can take advantage of the situation. After I seize the flag, don't continue to fight. Quickly leave with me. Use the bottom of the mountain as the boundary. Once we leave White Moon Mountain, no one will be able to steal the flag." "Understood." Huang Xiong gulped down half a pot of water in one go. "I already can't wait." "Give me the flag," He Yan said. Jiang Jiao handed the flag to her. He Yan carried it on her body and said, "Presumably, the flag of the new recruit team that appears at the end will also be in the hands of the leader. At that time, I will definitely have to fight a fierce battle with him. You guys just need to keep the others busy and not let them get close." "Can you really do it alone?" Wang Ba asked. "There are 6 flags here. If we don't scatter them a bit, they won't all be taken away. You're underestimating your boss too much." He Yan lightly jumped and landed on a branch. She laughed. "At least in the Liang Province Guard, no one can steal my things." Wang Xiaohan was currently leading one of their teams down the mountain. His clothes were already so tattered that they couldn't even cover his upper body. Fortunately, his pants were still intact. The blade in his hand had already been chipped. His face had also taken a punch. There were dark circles under his eyes. His companions behind him weren't any better. They all had bruises on their faces and tattered clothes. Those who didn't know would probably think that they were refugees from outside the city. Wang Xiaohan felt very hopeless. When the Liang Province Guard recruits competed for the flag, they were all very proud at first and their blood was boiling. Who knew that when they actually went up the mountain, they would realize that this wasn't the case. They had to find the flags that were messily hidden in the rugged mountain path. They had to be wary of snakes, insects, and wild beasts that appeared in the mountains. They also had to be wary of the traps that hunters set. If they had to compete with other recruits, it would be fine if they met someone with gentle methods. If they met someone with cruel methods, they would be beaten until their flesh was torn open. Even though the instructor said that they wouldn't harm their lives before going up the mountain, but in a fight, it was impossible to come out unscathed. They really didn't endanger their lives. But they were beaten. Wang Xiaohan felt wronged. This was the first time in his life that he had been beaten so badly. And their flags had been stolen. Whatever, it was stolen. Wang Xiaohan could also see that their team couldn't compare to the others. It was fine as long as they could safely go down the mountain. Whoever wanted to go to the Vanguard camp can go. Fuck the Vanguard camp, fuck the flag competition. Just as he was thinking, he stepped into a clump of dead branches. Something hit his forehead. It didn't hurt, but it gave him a fright. He looked up and saw a red-clothed youth sitting on the oak tree in front of him. He held an acorn in his hand and was about to aim it at his forehead. Seeing Wang Xiaohan look over, the youth smiled and greeted him. "Hey!" The youth had delicate features and a lively expression. It should have been a good scene, but Wang Xiaohan felt like a bucket of cold water had been poured over him. His heart was cold. His voice trembled. He only had time to let out a miserable cry. "It's He Yan!" "Run!" His companions heard him and ran. Wang Xiaohan also wanted to turn around and run. But when he moved, he felt something fly towards his knees. Then, his legs went numb and he couldn't move anymore. He looked at his companions. They were all the same. He Yan flew down from the tree. He was still holding the acorn in his hand. Just now, he had used the acorn to hit their acupuncture points. This was all because Wang Xiaohan and his companions were injured. Moreover, the mountain path was steep. They were already exhausted. That was why they were so easily restrained by He Yan. He Yan walked in front of Wang Xiaohan. Wang Xiaohan didn't wait for him to speak and shouted, "We don't have any flags. We don't even have one." Wang Ba and the others also came out from the shadows. They searched them and shook their heads at He Yan. "We don't have any." "Since you don't have any flags, why did you run when you saw me?" He Yan asked curiously. "I was afraid that you would hit me," Wang Xiaohan said with difficulty. "Who told you that we hit people?" He Yan was even more puzzled. He looked into his eyes. "Brother, you seem to be seriously injured. Is the battle for the flags on the mountain so intense?" They had avoided the intense battle from the beginning to the end. They didn't know what the situation was. Now that they saw Wang Xiaohan and his companions' miserable state, they were all glad that they didn't fight with the recruits. No one was willing to be beaten black. We heard that you stole a lot of flags." Wang Xiaohan stammered, "And your methods are sinister and cruel." Wang Ba was not happy. "Who the hell is talking nonsense? Do we need to be cruel to be here? Who is trying to ruin our reputation?" Wang Xiaohan didn't dare to say that the outsiders were much worse than this. They directly said that He Yan and his companions were a motley crew. "You just came down from the mountain, right?" He Yan asked. Wang Xiaohan nodded. "You didn't even have a single flag. Why did you come down the mountain?" Wang Xiaohan smashed the pot. "Since I couldn't get any, I might as well go back to take a bath and rest. Let me ask you." He Yan looked at him with a smile. "Other than us, who has the most flags on the mountain?" "It's Lei Ho." "Lei Ho?" Huang Xiong frowned. "Have you heard of this name?" Jiang Jiao shook his head. "No." Shi Tu and Wang Ba also expressed that they hadn't heard of it. There were tens of thousands of recruits in the Yangzhou Guard. Outstanding people would always be talked about. Since this Lei Ho had stolen so many flags, he must be very outstanding. But before this, no one had heard of this name. "Is he very strong?" He Yan asked Wang Xiaohan. "Very strong. He has more than 10 flags. I want to get rid of all the flags in your hands," Wang Xiaohan said. "More than 10 flags." He Yan raised his eyebrows. It seemed that this Lei Ho wasn't just lucky. She asked, "How did he steal the flags? Did he set a trap?" No, Wang Xiaohan replied. "He just saw someone with a flag and directly fought with them. After defeating them, he stole the flag. His companions are about the same as us, but this person is too strong. He can fight against several people alone." He Yan was stunned. If that was the case, this person wasn't just strong. She asked, "You were injured by him?" Wang Xiaohan nodded in humiliation. He Yan shook his head. Wang Xiaohan asked, "What's wrong?" "He hit you." "Why didn't you hit him?" "I can't beat him," Wang Xiaohan said angrily. "If I had your skills, I would have fought with him long ago. That's not true. If you can't fight, use your brain. He Yen patted his shoulder and unsealed their acupoints. You gave us so much information. I can't repay you. Don't worry. I will take revenge for you. Brothers, she turned and called out to Jiang Jiao and the others, don't just stand there. Pack up and get to work. You really want to fight with him? Wang Xiaohan asked cautiously. After talking to He Yen for a while, he felt that He Yen wasn't as cruel as the rumors said. Wang Xiaohan was relieved and kindly advised, since you already have a flag, you should go down the mountain first. Lei Ho is really good at fighting. If you can't beat him, you won't have a flag. If you go down the mountain now, you can still get second place. Second place? He Yen shook his head, second place might not enter the vanguard. Don't worry, He Yen said, who cares what kind of monkey he is? In my territory, he can only obediently be a worm. She laughed arrogantly. For a moment, Wang Xiaohan was speechless. After He Yen asked a few questions, Wang Xiaohan and the others went down the mountain. They were probably afraid that if He Yen and Lei Ho fought, they would be implicated. They ran very fast and disappeared in a few moments. Jiang Jiao turned and looked at He Yen. From what he said, that Lei Ho is very strong. Don't worry, He Yen said, I'm even stronger. She was so confident that the others didn't know what to say. He Yen estimated the time. Lei Ho and the others should be going down the mountain soon. He urged everyone to quickly hide and not waste any time. After hiding for about the time it took to drink a cup of tea, someone's footsteps were approaching. There were a total of 5 people. The other 4 were at the back and 1 was at the front. The one at the front should be the leader of the 5. He was about 20 years old and was a young man. He was tall and thin, with a dignified appearance and bright eyes. He walked in front of the dense forest and suddenly stopped. He stopped his companions behind him and said, Wait. Big Brother Lei? His companions asked. In the dense forest ahead, there is a faint murderous aura. I'm afraid there is an ambush here. Ambush? His companions found it strange. Why would someone dare to ambush us? Their group, relying on Lei Ho alone, had snatched all the flags from the hands of the recruits on the mountain. Other people didn't even have to talk about an ambush. When they went down the mountain, they were very ostentatious and didn't hide at all. This was because no one could beat Lei Ho. We only have 14 flags in our hands, Lei Ho said. We don't know where to find the remaining 6. Aren't the remaining ones in He Yan's hands? That's right, Lei Ho looked at the dense forest ahead, so the one who set up the ambush here is most likely He Yan. The group looked at each other. After a while, someone asked, then what should we do? No one in the Liang province guard didn't know He Yan. He could be considered a 1 in 10,000 talent. Although Lei Ho was also very powerful, if the two of them fought, it was hard to say what the result would be. Good timing, Lei Ho suddenly smiled and said, he's here. Let's snatch all his flags and not leave a single one for others. These words were full of confidence and made everyone's blood boil. His companions all said good. Lei Ho said again, you guys go deal with the others. Leave He Yan to me. He didn't know that, coincidentally, He Yan also thought the same. Lei Ho took a few steps forward. The path was narrow and there were dense forests on both sides. He didn't go forward. He only shouted to the front, this one is Lei Ho. Come out, He Yan. I know you're here. A young man's light laughter suddenly sounded from the tree. Lei Ho raised his head and looked up. The young man was leaning against a tree branch with one hand supporting his head. He seemed to be taking a nap. Her gaze was regretful. She said, brother's eyesight is too good. I can't hide it. You hid it well. Lei Ho also smiled. It's just that your companions are too murderous. He Yan thought helplessly, what could he do? One was a bandit, one was a hero of the forest, one was a young master of a martial arts school, and one was a hunter born and raised in Shuajing. All of them had been through bloody battles. How could they be as calm as a monk in a temple? Tell your people to come out, Lei Ho said, let's fight for the flags fair and square. He emphasized the words fair and square. It was probably because he had heard about He Yan's great achievements at the top of the mountain. He liked to fish in troubled waters, so he emphasized that they couldn't use schemes and tricks. They liked to play hide and seek. He Yan only smiled and said, let your people find them. Lei Ho's smile turned cold. He looked at He Yan for a moment. Suddenly, a cold light rushed towards He Yan. He Yan moved sideways to avoid it. The cold light brushed past his shoulder. He saw the cold light fly back to Lei Ho's hand. It was a long sword. This person originally used a sword. Brother, you're too impatient, He Yan smiled slightly. He raised his hand and pulled out the 9-section whip from his waist. The two whips collided in the air and made a crisp sound. The young man jumped down from the tree branch. Then, I'll fight with you. She rushed towards Lei Ho. Lei Ho greeted her. Behind him, Lei Ho's companions also wanted to help. But as soon as they moved, they saw several people coming out from all directions. From the grass, behind the Shi, beside the tree trunk, and from the foxhole. They were probably He Yan's companions. They appeared without warning and seized the opportunity. Lei Ho's people were caught off guard and could only suffer such a loss. They were all beaten up a few times. Since they came up the mountain, they had been invincible. When had they ever been beaten up? For a moment, they were more shocked than angry. Wang Ba waved his axe and rushed into the crowd. Your grandfather have long wanted to come out and fight. Come, let's fight to our heart's content. He Yan smiled and said, take it easy, brother Wang. If it ends too quickly, there won't be any more fights. You're still in the mood to joke. Lei Ho felt that it was inconceivable. He was probably angry that He Yan wasn't focused during the fight. He didn't hold back and stabbed his sword towards He Yan's chest. He Yan slightly frowned and looked at Lei Ho with a cold expression. The recruits came up the mountain to fight for the flag. The goal was to fight for the flag and not to fight. Therefore, the instructor would remind them not to harm their lives. But when she fought with Lei Ho just now, she knew that this person didn't have any scruples. No wonder Wang Xiaohan was beaten up so miserably and was disheartened so early. Wang Xiaohan wasn't the most miserable person who fought with Lei Ho on the mountain. For example, if it was someone else, they would have been stabbed. He really didn't hold back at all. Seeing He Yan's expression change, Lei Ho's eyes flashed with contempt. He said, if you admit defeat now, I won't fight. How could that be? The youth smiled and said, I still want the remaining flags in your arms. Lei Ho's expression changed. All the flags were indeed in his arms. First, it was because he was the one who stole the flags. If he had them, his companions wouldn't have any objections. Second, if he had them, no one would dare to steal them. He didn't think that He Yan would see through him. He sneered and quickly pointed his sword at He Yan. He Yan's front lapel was about to grab He Yan's flag. He Yan raised his hand and the 9-section whip's tail hit Lei Ho's sword with a pa sound. He Yan tiptoed and retreated a few steps. She lowered her head and looked at her clothes. Fortunately, they weren't cut open. Her heart flashed with a trace of displeasure. If this was in Shuajing, Lei Ho's actions would be enough for the girl to send him to jail. Molesting a good girl on the street was something a hooligan would do. Brother Lei is too rude. She raised her eyebrows and said, I'm a bit angry. Chapter 83. I'm a little angry. As soon as he said this, Wang Ba and the others all looked at He Yan at the same time. Shi too had spent the most time with He Yan, so he knew that He Yan was a good-tempered person. Even when Wang Ba had tried to steal her meat bun, she had only defended her food. She had never seriously said that she was angry. But now, this monkey, who came out of nowhere, had actually made He Yen angry. Lei Ho laughed. Brother He, swords have no eyes. Don't take out your anger on me. You'll have to be able to hurt me first. He Yen smiled. He flipped backward and was already behind Lei Ho. His 9-section whip was like a long snake, nimbly swinging. Lei Ho dodged, but the whip seemed to have eyes. He didn't shake it off. Instead, it brushed past his cheek. In a split second, a red mark appeared on Lei Ho's face. Because it was the tail of the whip, there was no blood. Even so, Lei Ho's expression was very ugly. Brother Lei, swords have no eyes. He Yen hooked his finger at him. Don't take out your anger on me. Lei Ho didn't say a word. He held his long sword and rushed forward. His movements were skillful, and his murderous aura soared. He was completely different from the new recruits who practiced in the martial arts field. The tip of his sword was aimed at either He Yan's throat or He Yan's heart. It was very vicious. In contrast, the youth's movements were much gentler. He was originally thin and delicate, but he didn't seem tired at all. It was as if he had endless energy. He swept and entangled Lei Ho's sword, preventing it from moving forward an inch. He Yen didn't want to hurt Lei Ho's life, but Lei Ho didn't think so. She thought about it several times in her mind. It seemed that unless she completely defeated Lei Ho, as long as Lei Ho had one breath left, he would not give up and chase after her to snatch the flag. However, after exchanging blows with Lei Ho, it gave birth to a strange feeling in He Yan's heart. This strange feeling was indescribable, but it made her feel as if something had been overlooked, causing her to feel uncomfortable all over. While he was thinking, a saber and sword gleam came from the side. He Yen was startled and leaned back to dodge. His sleeve was cut open in a split second, and the wind leaked in. Lei Ho stared at her and said with bright eyes, "At this time, it seems like we shouldn't be distracted. I was just thinking about how to calm you down." He Yen said, "Brother Lei, are you a little annoyed that no one has told you?" Such blatant provocation, coupled with her smiling expression, could really make an ordinary person explode in anger. Lei Ho's face immediately darkened, and he raised his sword to stab. He Yen smiled slightly and threw out her long whip. The whip circled around her body like a long snake, and unexpectedly, the tip of the sword couldn't move an inch. She was still smiling. While smiling, she said, "Actually, you guys don't know, but I'm also quite good at using a whip." In an instant, the whip crisscrossed, sweeping forward and rolling, sometimes fast and sometimes slow, dazzling people's eyes. The young man's voice carried a cheerful tone, as if he wasn't at daggers drawn to fight for the flag, but was competing with his heart on the martial arts field. She spoke amidst the flying whip footwork. "This is called twisting the elbow. This is called deceiving the horse left and right. This is called the white snake's tongue. Sweeping dragon." Her movements became faster and faster. Wang Ba and the others had already stopped what they were doing and looked at her, as if they were shocked by her imposing manner. Originally on the martial arts field, they already felt that she was very powerful, but now it seemed that she had been holding back before. Lei Xian gritted his teeth, and his expression became more and more unsightly. He didn't put He Yen in his eyes. No matter how powerful a recruit was, he wouldn't be able to take care of everything. He Yan's saber, bow, and spear techniques were outstanding, but it didn't mean that he could defeat him. However, the young man in front of him used the whip so casually, as if he had already used it thousands of times. That was fine. Even if he used the same weapon well, it didn't mean that he could win in a fight. But He Yen was really too cunning. She had only exchanged a few blows with him, but she seemed to be able to observe his weak points and attack them specifically. In such a short time, he was unable to find He Yan's weak points and had no way to attack. Lei Ho felt apprehensive. The young man's smile became wider and wider. One whip after another, one whip after another. Lei Ho felt that the long whip in front of him was like a spinning wheel, but also like a hard and fierce steel rod. It was like a worm or a dragon, with endless changes. He couldn't help but feel a little dazzled. In this dazzling moment, he saw the long whip coming towards his face again. Lei Ho subconsciously used his sword to block it. In the next moment, the whip made a mischievous turn and went straight for his chest. Lei Ho knew that something was wrong, but it was too late. The whip seemed to have grown eyes, and it directly wrapped around the dozens of flags in his bosom and pulled them back. Lei Ho wanted to use his sword to block the long whip, but the long whip could be retracted and released at will. How could it be entangled by his sword? It slipped and fell into He Yan's hands. This is called the golden silk gourd. He Yan weighed the flag in his hand and said with a smile, "Thank you, Brother Lei, for tying it up for me." Lei Ho was conceited. He felt that none of the recruits on White Moon Mountain today could defeat him. Therefore, he was extremely arrogant when he put the flags. He directly tied them up with a rope and put them into his bosom. But at this moment, He Yan took them all away. He couldn't help but feel a trace of regret. If he had been more careful and separated them, he wouldn't have lost everything so quickly. Now that he saw that He Yan took them all away, Lei Ho could no longer maintain his gloomy face. Without saying anything, he rushed towards He Yan. He Yan retreated a few steps and said with a smile, "Once it's in my hands, it's mine. No one can take what's mine. What if I insist on taking it?" Lei Ho's murderous aura soared, his sword like a meteor. "Actually, I don't like to fight," He Yan sighed. "If you insist on taking it, then I can only beat you." The two figures collided in a split second. Wang Ba and Lei Ho's companions were already tired from fighting. Moreover, the flags weren't in their hands, so there was no point in fighting. They were already sitting under the tree, watching from the sidelines. In their hearts, they were very clear that this was a contest between He Yan and Lei Ho. Whoever won would take the flags. "Can you tell who's stronger between the two of them?" Lei Ho's companions asked. Jiang Jiao shook his head, "I can't tell." "Do you even need to ask?" "It's definitely He Yan." Wang Ba answered matter-of-factly. "Oh. Brother, why do you say that?" "I don't know. It's just a feeling. Do you want pine nuts?" Huang Xiong handed him a pine nut. Thank you, thank you." "Oh, it's delicious." Before he finished eating the pine nuts, he heard a dong sound. Everyone looked forward and saw that the two figures had separated. Lei Ho's expression didn't change. The youth smiled and held a long whip in his hand. A sword was lying on the ground. "You lost," He Yan said. Lei Ho's expression was ugly. He didn't speak. After a moment, he said in a low voice, "You cheated. All's fair in war." He Yan picked up the long sword on the ground and returned it to him. He said seriously, "Your leg was injured by me. Rest here for an hour before you move. Otherwise, your leg will be affected and you won't be able to practice martial arts in the future." Lei Ho turned his face away and took the sword. He didn't want to look at her. "It's okay," He Yan patted his shoulder and said earnestly, "Victory and defeat are unpredictable. It's a man's duty to endure humiliation. It's just a battle for the flags. You're already very outstanding. It's a pity that you met me." She pointed at herself, "I'm the best." Wang Ba and the others had heard He Yan say this countless times. At first, they didn't care about it, but now, they were numb to it. Moreover, she wasn't wrong. He Yan called Jiang Jiao, "Let's go," and said to Lei Ho's companions, "You guys rest here and protect Brother Lei." That person looked at her in confusion. "You guys beat up so many new recruits on the mountain. When the new recruits come down and see that Brother Lei can't move, it's inevitable that they'll join forces to beat you back." "That's why I said," she said righteously, "don't think that evil is small." Lei Ho's group was left behind. Jiang Jiao and the others followed He Yan down the mountain. He said, "You cheated," Huang Xiong couldn't help but ask, how did you cheat? Actually, I wasn't trying to trick him, I was just purposely showing him a few flaws. He Yen shrugged, he wanted my life, and I just wanted him to be unable to leave, unable to catch up to me. He misunderstood my intentions, so. That monkey isn't that strong, Wang Ba didn't comment, he said he was strong, but he lost so quickly. So weak. That's where you're wrong, He Yen shook his head and laughed, he really is strong. Among the new recruits of the Yangzhou Guard, if I wasn't there, he would be the number one. He Yen had fought with this person before. She didn't know what this person used to do, but he didn't look more than 20 years old. Thinking about it, he must have practiced martial arts for at least 10 years. His skills were profound, and his techniques were skillful. If there was a flaw, it would be that his killing intent was too strong. Even though he didn't take lives, with his fighting style, it was very likely that he would seriously injure his companions. It was because his skills were too good that his method of capturing the flag was so simple and crude. However, capturing the flag was never a matter of setting up an arena. Whoever could fight to the end would be the winner. Even though Lei Ho was very strong, he had been fighting with the other new recruits on the mountain top, constantly going up and down the mountain. In the end, he still used up a lot of energy. When he fought, it was fine if it was only for a short time, but after a long time, his flaws became very obvious. He Yen went up and down the mountain today with the 5 of them. Wang Ba and the others also put in serious effort. Other than making arrangements, He Yen didn't really fight many times. Because she was full of energy, she also had enough energy to look for Lei Ho's weaknesses. He really won't follow. Jiang Jiao was still a bit doubtful, and frequently looked back. I think we should go faster, in case he follows. Don't worry, He Yen said, unless he doesn't want to continue practicing martial arts in the future, he won't follow. But what you said makes sense, we should leave the mountain as soon as possible. In the room of the city guard, a game of Go was still unfinished. Shenhan's mind was preoccupied, and he didn't have the mood to play Go. The youth in front of him didn't seem to be anxious at all, nor did he care about the outcome of the battle for the flag. He leisurely drank tea and played Go, so calm that it made one's hair stand on end. The black-clothed imperial bodyguard came in from outside, walked to Xiao Ju's side, and quietly said, He Yen bumped into Lei Ho and fought with Lei Ho. Lei Ho wasn't a match for him, and now all 20 flags are in He Yen's hands. He didn't avoid Shenhan, so these words were also heard by Shenhan, who immediately sucked in a breath of cold air. That Lei Ho, from the moment he went up the mountain to fight for the first flag, he had been noticed by them. This young man didn't reveal himself before, and if it weren't for this battle for the flag, they wouldn't have known that there was such a capable fighter in the Liang Province Guard. This person was even recommended by Instructor Du's relatives. At first, they didn't see anything special about him, but now they knew that he had real skills. This person went up the mountain to fight for the flag, and fought with others without losing a single battle. He was different from He Yen, who hid in the dark and ambushed people. He only knew how to be straightforward, and didn't know how to hide. Fortunately, his skills were excellent, and he defeated countless people, taking 14 flags in one go, twice as many as He Yen. Originally, Shenhan was very much looking forward to the meeting between Lei Ho and He Yen. He really wanted to see who would win if the two really fought. Shenhan thought that He Yen was used to playing tricks, and that he might not be able to defeat Lei Ho if he directly fought like this. After all, Lei Ho's skills were indeed powerful. He didn't expect that Lei Ho would still be defeated by He Yen. He Yan's group is already walking down the mountain, Fei Nu continued, they can enter the formation in another hour. Shenhan looked at Xiao Ju. At first, he thought that there was no need to use a formation against a recruit. But now, Shenhan only had one thought in his mind. This young man was omnipotent, and there was nothing he couldn't do. He was afraid that this formation wouldn't be able to trap him. Xiao Ju's face was calm. She lowered her eyes and picked up Shenhan's white chess piece. Shenhan asked in a low voice, Governor, will he win? Xiao Ju's lips curled up. Maybe. The sun was gradually setting in the west. The sunlight changed from the brilliant gold of the day to a warm red. It seeped through the gaps between the branches and leaves, like a large piece of red clouds, soft and bright, like the red muslin worn by a girl. Wild birds chirped from the depths of the forest. It was probably because they already had 20 flags in hand, and victory was in their grasp. The group was in a very good mood. It was as if they didn't come to the mountain to compete for flags, but came out to play. At this moment, they were preparing to go home. Wang Ba said, "When we go back this time, other than the possibility of entering the vanguard, will we be rewarded with something?" "There should be." He Yen casually asked, "What do you want?" "Wine." "Of course it's good wine. I haven't drunk much since I came here. I'm dying of thirst." Wang Ba complained, "If I could have wine to drink, I would have more strength than I do now. That's wine, not medicinal cuisine." He Yen found it a little funny. "Can you give me some good weapons?" Jiang Jiao said, "When I joined the army, I didn't bring any weapons with me. The long spear in the training field isn't very convenient to use. If I could be rewarded with a good long spear, that would be good." Huang Xiong touched the prayer beads on his neck and said, "I just want to eat hot beef. Drinking big bowls of wine and eating big chunks of meat, that's the way to live." Shi Tu pondered for a long time before saying, "Bring Xiaomai up the mountain. He has always wanted to hunt rabbits." Out of the 4 people, 3 of their wishes were related to eating and drinking. He Yen didn't know whether he should praise them for having no desires. Jiang Jiao asked, "What about you? What do you want as a reward?" "Me? I don't want anything." He Yen said, "If I can enter the vanguard battalion, I'll be very happy." "You're really thinking about making a name for yourself," Wang Ba said sourly. "Of course. I'm so powerful, wouldn't it be a pity if I didn't make a name for myself? I'm also hoping to be recognized by the governor and become his bodyguard or something." He Yen thought that if that was the case, he could meet Xiao Ju every day and find out news about the He clan. "Just think about it." Wang Ba rolled his eyes. "If you succeed, I'll call you Dad." He Yen, as they were talking, Huang Xiong stopped and said, "Have we been going around in circles? Why do I feel like we've been here before?" "Forget it." Wang Ba said, "Do you know the way?" "I also feel like we've been here before," Jiang Jiao said. He Yen didn't say anything. Shi Tu took out a straw rope from his pocket and walked to a tree in front of them. He reached out and tied it to a tree, saying, "The mountain path is complicated and the trees look similar. It's normal to make a mistake. Let's continue walking." The group continued walking. After walking for a while, they saw a tree in front of them. The straw rope that Shi Tu had tied to the tree was tied to it. This time, everyone was silent. After a while, Wang Ba opened his mouth. His voice trembled slightly. He said, "Are we going around in circles?" The more he spoke, the more excited he became. He rambled on, "I heard from one of the advisors on our mountain that he started walking on the mountain path the night before. When he reached a certain place, no matter how he walked, he kept walking in circles. He had no choice but to sit down and sleep in his clothes. The next morning, well, guess what happened?" He deliberately kept them in suspense, but no one answered him. Wang Ba said angrily, when he woke up, he found himself in a graveyard. He Yen face-bombed. "Brother Wang, now is not the time to tell ghost stories. What are you afraid of?" Huang Xiong said in a low, muffled voice. "I have the Buddhist prayer beads. Demons and ghosts can't get close to me. But you," he turned to look at He Yen. "Did you remember the way wrong?" "No," He Yen said. "Then why did you suddenly get lost?" Jiang Jiao was also puzzled. Although Mount Baiyue was big, it wasn't to the extent of getting lost. They were fine when they came up, so how could they not find their way down the mountain? "We are indeed going down the mountain," He Yen said, "but we are also going around in circles here. A thought flashed through her mind and she walked to the tree with the straw rope tied to it. She looked around for a bit. This was a wild area. The trees were not as dense as the ones at the top of the mountain. The ground was overgrown with weeds, and there were a few pieces of sure-too scattered everywhere. Sure-too. Yan's heart skipped a beat. She walked a few steps forward and saw a pile of rocks. She bent down to take a closer look. A few huge rocks were randomly piled together without any shape. They looked like they were casually moved here by the hunters when they were resting on the mountain. Why are you staring at this pile of sure-too? Wang Ba asked. Are there words on it? Yan straightened up and said, there are no words on it, but this is why we can't get out. What? Jiang Jiao and the others also gathered around. They were all looking at the sure-too, but they couldn't figure out what it was. Sure-too frowned and asked, what is the meaning of this? Qimen Duanjia, the 8 gates of life, injury, rest, obstruction, view, death, shock, and opening. Someone set up a formation here, Yan said. We entered the formation, so we are going around in circles. Everyone could understand her words separately, but they didn't understand when she put them together. Everyone looked at her. They didn't even know where to start asking questions. Yan was also puzzled. There was no sign of Wang Xiaohan anywhere. This meant that Wang Xiaohan and the others had already gone down the mountain. They couldn't have broken the formation. This meant that there wasn't one before. Then why was there one now? Who set up the formation specifically for her? Shinhan? Or Xiaoju? Chapter 84. After a while, Wang Ba couldn't help but ask, what is this formation you're talking about? It's a military formation. A general needs to learn how to use troops to set up a formation. The military formation was originally modified by the Qimen Duanjia. Yan said, it's a long story, but this formation, what's wrong? Sure-too asked. It's not a military formation. It's just a normal 8 trigrams formation. Yan answered. She really didn't understand why there was a formation here. There wasn't this formation when they went up the mountain. Wang Xiaohan and the others didn't see it either. It seemed like it was prepared for them, or for her. But why? Then, can you walk out of here? Jiang Jiao stared at her face and asked. Of course. This time, Huang Xiong was also surprised, you even know how to do this? Yan smiled, I only know a little. Her only know a little usually meant very well. Everyone was speechless. Yan knew that there must be guards hiding in the dark to observe their situation on the mountain. At this moment, her words and actions were probably being watched by the eyes in the dark. She couldn't reveal that she wasn't good enough. Maybe Xiaoju specially set up this formation for her to test her ability. After all, she had never seen a flag battle where she had to break a formation. It seemed like it wasn't easy to enter the 9 Flags Battalion. If everyone in the 9 Flags Battalion knew how to break a formation, then the 9 Flags Battalion really wasn't simple. Xiaoju had such a strong cavalry. No wonder she was invincible. With that thought, she said, follow me. Follow the way I walk. Don't take a wrong step. Yan was rarely this serious. Jiang Jiao and the others didn't dare to be careless. They followed Yan's footsteps and slowly walked down the mountain. Huang Xiong asked as they walked, Brother He, who did you learn this from? Yan smiled and said, my master is a master. I thought so too. Huang Xiong nodded, your master must be a peerless master. Otherwise, how can you know everything? Yan lowered her head and smiled. She didn't answer. In fact, General Feihong was brave on the battlefield. It wasn't rare. The world didn't lack of heroes who weren't afraid of death. Although she was skilled, she wasn't the best in the world. She didn't need to mention fighting a group of heroes by herself. General Feihong was best at arranging troops and formations. Her master was indeed a peerless expert, but as a woman, she was born inferior to a man in terms of physical strength and physique. One must know how to play to one's strengths and avoid one's weaknesses. If one could learn how to arrange troops, deploy troops, and dispatch generals, it would be much more effective than if she went to the battlefield alone to fight. Her master was most proficient in the art of divination, so she learned it and combined it with the art of war. Finally, she became a famous general of her generation, Fei Hong. Generals should learn how to train troops and set up formations, but why did the 9 Flags Battalion have to learn this as well? He Yen couldn't figure it out. She couldn't find a clue. She could only give up and walk down the mountain. Actually, she could directly break the formation here and destroy it. However, He Yen wasn't sure if the formation was prepared for her. If it was prepared for someone else and she destroyed it, what would happen to the people who came after her? Therefore, she led Jiang Jiao and the others out through the life gate. Breaking the formation was as easy as flipping her hand for her. She was familiar with it. However, in the eyes of the secret watchers, it was a big deal. Ma Damei and Liang Ping were hiding in the dark. When they saw He Yen and the others leave, they opened their mouths and looked at each other. They saw the surprise in each other's eyes. He left just like that? Liang Ping stuttered. As if nothing happened. Ma Damei said. He Yen didn't even stop to think. He didn't think about how to break the formation. He just glanced at it and knew how to get out. They actually had such a person among the new recruits. Until now, there didn't seem to be anything that could stop him. This should have been a good thing. He was a heroic young man who was outstanding. Anyone who had such a hero under their command would feel that they were lucky for several lifetimes. However, the current situation was complicated. She didn't know if it was a blessing or a curse based on Chief Instructor Shin's words. The forest was dense. Half of the sun had already set. He Yen and the others walked out of the formation. She stopped and looked back. The formation made of shirtu and dried branches was so blurry that she couldn't see it clearly. Are we walking out? Wang Ba asked. That's right. Wang Ba was happy. Damn it. There's nothing to stop us this time, right? I estimate that we'll be down the mountain in less than an hour. Jiang Jiao was also happy. It's almost over. He saw that He Yen was still looking behind them. He asked, is there anything wrong? Nothing. He Yen shook her head. She still felt that the formation was inexplicable. When she fought with Lei Ho, there were also some strange places. These discomforts were like small stones falling into her boots. It made her panic. It made it difficult for her to feel happy. She only felt that she had overlooked something and was somewhat uneasy. It's getting dark. Let's go down the mountain early, Huang Xiong said. He Yen collected her thoughts and only said, let's go. The sun didn't pass by Yu Mountain and fell into the Wulu River. Half of its body sank into the river. The water surface was bathed in the setting sun. It was as if a woman's makeup box was opened and pearls were scattered all over the surface. The pot of tea in the room was already cold. It was evening. The wind was soft and the curtains were green. The autumn scenery was far away. 2 people were playing chess. One of them was anxious and the other was calm. Someone walked in from outside and said, the first team is down the mountain. Shen Han looked at Fei Nu and waited for Fei Nu to say the name. It's He Yen. With these 3 words, Shen Han's body leaned back slightly. His entire body relaxed. This result was both unexpected and reasonable. He had long guessed that this would be the result, but he had some doubts. Now that his suspicions were confirmed, he was momentarily at a loss. The black piece was placed. The youth in front of him raised his head and said indifferently, you've lost. Shen Han. Governor's chess skills are superb. I'm ashamed of my inferiority. In this half-day, he hadn't won once. He didn't know why Xiao Ju was in the mood to play chess like this. Governor, they've gone down the mountain. Should we reward them now? No need, Xiao Ju curled her lips, Du Mao will do as he sees fit. 5 days from now is the Mid-Autumn Festival. We'll reward them on that night. Regarding the Vanguard Battalion, should we let He Yan enter? Shen Han asked hesitantly. He Yan had already won first place. Naturally, he should enter the Vanguard Battalion. But his identity was suspicious. Right now, they didn't know if he was a friend or foe. Wasn't it a bit inappropriate to hastily agree? No, the youth stood up and looked at the osmanthus trees outside the window. The osmanthus trees had bloomed, and their fragrance assailed their nostrils. Together with him, he looked like a gentleman. He said, let Lei Ho enter the Vanguard Battalion. After the battle, they came down from the mountain and arrived at the city guard station in less than an hour. There were a few torches outside the martial arts practice field. Everything was as peaceful as before. There was no instructor guarding the door. There was no scene of celebration as they had imagined. They looked at each other in dismay. I thought there would be a celebratory feast. Wang Ba was a bit dissatisfied. Why isn't there anything? Just as they were speaking, someone in the martial arts practice field saw them and walked over. It was only when they got closer that they saw that this person was Du Mao. Du Mao wasn't as excited as when he saw them off. His expression was very calm. When he saw them, he asked, where are the flags? He Yan took out a bunch of flags from her bosom. Her bosom was bulging from the flags. She suddenly handed them over to someone and felt much more relaxed. Du Mao counted, 20 flags. That's right. Jiang Jiao was still a bit excited. He couldn't help but ask, we should be first, right? We are first. Du Mao nodded and put away the flags. He said to them, go take a bath and rest first. Tomorrow morning you can rest for 2 more hours before coming to the martial arts practice field. You've worked hard today. He still didn't have any intention of rewarding them. Wang Ba asked, that's it? Du Mao looked at him, what else do you want? Wang Ba didn't know how to respond. He felt wronged for some reason. Du Mao said, I'll go back first to report to the head instructor. Don't stay here. You're all sweaty. Wash up and eat something. Then, he didn't care about them and turned to leave. He was really heartless. Looking at Du Mao's back, they felt the night wind become a bit colder. Wang Ba saw that Du Mao had walked far away. Only then did he dare to point at his back and ask, no, what's the meaning of this? He's just going to leave us here. He has to give us an explanation. So all our hard work for the whole day was for nothing. Huang Xiong and Jiang Jiao were also somewhat disappointed. Shi Tu said, maybe it's not today. After all, there are still recruits who haven't left the mountain. That's right. He Yan also thought so. We don't know when the last recruit will leave the mountain. Moreover, the head instructor needs to discuss the prize for a while. It's not something he can think of immediately. Wang Ba glanced at her and said sourly, of course you don't care. Your prize, entering the Vanguard Battalion, is definitely in the bag. Of course you can say that. When I enter the Vanguard Battalion, I'll go get you 2 jars of good wine. He Yan patted his shoulder and said seriously. Wang Ba shook off her hand and snorted twice, I don't care what you say. Grandpa, I'm going back. They didn't live in the same house, so they went their separate ways at the martial arts practice field. When He Yan and Shi Tu returned to the house, the originally quiet house suddenly became lively. Xiao Mai was the first to rush up and threw herself in front of Shi Tu. Brother! How was it? How many flags did you get? What rank did you get? Shi Tu revealed a rare smile and said, all of them. The house was stunned for a moment, and then suddenly cheered. He Yan was almost lifted up and thrown into the sky. Hong Shan shouted exaggeratedly, all of them. You guys are too hard-working. You're good. You got first place again. I think it won't be long before you don't live in this house anymore. I heard that the soldiers in the Vanguard battalion eat and sleep better than us. Sigh, I'm so jealous. Sure too, brother tell us quickly. How did you guys get the flags? That's right. There were so many recruits on the mountain. Did you guys fight? Did you have a good time fighting? You all got 20 flags. How could you not fight? You guys didn't seem to be injured. Are the others so weak? He Yen could only say, brothers, let us eat something and drink some water first. I'll tell you slowly. Don't be impatient. As they spoke, it was already late into the night. Outside, they heard the recruits coming down the mountain one after another. Not a single one was missing. He Yen felt relieved. When it was late at night and there was no one around, he sneaked to the riverside to take a bath. The long summer was finally over. The river gradually became cold. He Yen couldn't help but shiver when he didn't get into the water. She was a little worried. It was still okay in summer and autumn, but in winter, she couldn't go to the bathroom with the recruits to take a cold shower. She didn't know how cold the river would be. The cold was secondary. What excuse could she use to explain why she didn't use hot water and instead took a cold shower in the river? Other people would think that she was crazy. Therefore, she had to enter the 9 Flags Battalion as soon as possible. Xiaoju didn't lack money and he was also a young master. He wouldn't mistreat his confidant. It would be more convenient than now. He Yan's body gradually adapted to the cold. She splashed some water on her body and used Xiaomai to wipe her spleen. All the new soldiers had already left the mountain and there was no news of anyone falling down. This also meant that the array on the mountain path should have been removed after He Yan and the others left. The formation was indeed prepared for her. He Yan thought that Xiaoju really wanted her to enter the 9 Flags Battalion and deliberately tested her qualifications. Since that was the case, Xiaoju should be satisfied with her after she passed the test. She would definitely enter the 9 Flags Battalion. In the future, she still needed to perform more. This way, the more satisfied Xiaoju was with her, the more likely she would become his confidant. It would be best if she could become his right-hand woman. He Yan always felt that something was wrong when she fought with Lei Ho today. She thought about it but couldn't figure out what was wrong. Even now, she still felt the same. She could only shake her head and think of a reason to fight with this person again in a few days. Maybe she could figure out the crux of the problem. However, this person didn't show any mercy. She still had to be careful. He Yan rinsed the foam off her body and wiped her body with a cloth. Then, she put on her clothes and walked back to her room. Ever since she bumped into Xiaoju at the Wulu River, He Yan had to walk very far away every time she took a bath. She didn't want to bump into him again. No matter how she thought about it, she had been very cautious as a new recruit. The next day, all the recruits who went up the mountain the day before rested in their tents for 2 hours. Cheng Lisu came to find He Yan. Young Master Cheng brought 2 round pomegranates for He Yan. He sat cross-legged on her couch and said, I only found out last night that you guys went to fight for the flags. My uncle locked me in my room for the whole day. I copied books for the whole day. If I knew, I would have come to see you guys. He leaned closer to He Yan and said, I heard that big brother got 20 flags. This time, you are the #1 recruit in Liangzhou. He Yan smiled and opened the pomegranates that Cheng Lisu brought. The pomegranates were big and round. The insides were already ripe. When he opened them, each one looked like red crystals. Just looking at them made one's mouth water. He Yan picked up a few and ate them. He answered, I was just lucky. Big brother, you are good at everything. You are just too humble. Cheng Lisu said seriously, how can this be called lucky? You are very good. Since I am so good, He Yan wanted to get some information from him. He looked at him and asked with a smile, do you think I can enter the 9 Flags Battalion? Of course. Cheng Lisu swallowed the word, of course. Originally, this was something that went with the flow and couldn't be more normal. However, Qing Li Su still remembered that not long ago, when Xiao Zhu got the information from his mouth, his attitude towards He Yan didn't seem to be one of admiration. I think that big brother, you have already proven to everyone that you are the number one in the Liangzhou guards. There is no doubt about it. Qing Li Su carefully chose his words. Any ordinary person would choose you to enter the 9 Flags Battalion. His words were very clear. Any ordinary person. However, Xiao Zhu was not an ordinary person. Therefore, no one could say for sure what the result would be. He Yan did not detect the trap in Qing Li Su's words. He was probably too confident in himself. After all, in this battle for the flags, she had already gotten all the flags. This was enough to show how good she was. Moreover, in the battle for the flags, He Yan thought about it carefully and felt that his performance was very outstanding. He knew how to use people, how to set up traps, and how to use tricks. He did not lose when he fought against Lei Ho. Even Xiao Zhu's final formation was easily broken. He Yan felt that even in Xiao Zhu's 9 Flags Battalion, he could be ranked first or second. How could Xiao Zhu let go of such a good talent? She was very happy, so she did not notice that the happier she appeared, the more guilty Qing Li Su appeared. However, do you know when the rewards will be given? He Yan asked. It wasn't yesterday. If it isn't today, then it should be in the next few days. You and your uncle are inseparable, so you should know a thing or two. Qing Li Su sighed in relief. He could answer this question. She said, isn't it almost mid-autumn? On the night of the 15th of the 8th month, the rewards will be given in the barracks. He Yan was slightly startled. Mid-autumn? Yes. Qing Li Su sighed. Time really flies. I feel like I haven't been in Liangzhou for long, and it's already mid-autumn. He Yan looked at her. This usually energetic young man had a rare look of worry on his face. He Yan asked, do you want to go home? The worry on his face quickly faded. It was so faint that it made one wonder if it had even been there. Qing Li Su flung her sleeves and said angrily, how is that possible? Is it because Liangzhou's scenery is bad, or is it because my uncle is ugly? Why would I want to go home? I'm simply too happy here. I don't want to go back and get married. He Yan, at this age, children usually yearn for more freedom. Qing Li Su turned to him and asked, Big brother, what about you? Do you want to go back? The young man lowered his eyes. The shadow of his body made it difficult to see his expression clearly. Her voice was also smiling, but there was a hint of disappointment in it. She said, it's okay. I don't really miss home. The next few days were as usual. The discussion about the battle for the flag was only lively in private among the recruits. Everyone was talking about what kind of reward the first-place winner would receive. The instructors were very calm. They were very tight-lipped and did not reveal anything. The more they thought about it, the more excited they became. The autumn moon became more perfect day by day. In the blink of an eye, 4 days had passed and mid-autumn arrived. Chapter 85. The autumn geese flew diagonally across the sky, and the osmanthus trees gave off a sweet fragrance. The heat of summer had finally faded away, leaving behind only the coldness of late autumn. Early in the morning, when He Yan woke up, Xiaomai handed her a pear. I picked it from the forest beside the training field. I've already washed it. Try it. He Yan had just washed up, so she took a bite. It was so sour that her teeth almost fell out. Seeing her squint her eyes, Xiaomai scratched her head in embarrassment. The ones in the wild forest aren't very ripe yet. It should be sweeter after a while. But since it's autumn now, there are a lot of wild fruits in the forest. We can secretly pick a few every day after training. Marinate these sour pears with sugar and make them into rock sugar snow pears. They're very delicious. This child only thought about eating every day. He Yan said, there's no sugar here. Xiaomai was stunned for a moment, then she seemed to realize something. She said with some disappointment, "That's true." "Not necessarily." Hong Shan, who had been watching them talk from the side, interjected, "Aren't we going to talk about merits today?" "Ah, you and Shirtu got first place in the competition for the flag last time. Who knows, there might be candy in your reward today. Maybe there's something delicious, like rock sugar snow pears." When this was mentioned, Xiaomai suddenly became excited. She said, "That's right, Go. We're going to talk about merits tonight. Have you thought about what you want?" "I can't get whatever I want." He Yen smiled. "The garrison isn't the capital, so there's a shortage of resources. Sigh, he just wants to enter the vanguard battalion." Hong Shan also took a bite of the pear and said vaguely, "This request will definitely be fulfilled." He Yen smiled. These past few days, although she appeared very calm, in the end, she was still somewhat excited. Once she entered the Nine Flags battalion, it meant that she was one step closer to Xiaoju. She would also be able to openly deal with the He clan's matter. Thinking about it, she would be able to fulfill her wish tonight. Up until now, her path in the army had been quite smooth. After all, being a General Feihong was something that people would fight over no matter where she went. He Yen felt a little proud. During the day, he went to the martial arts practice field as usual. However, at night, everyone was admiring the moon in the open space near the foot of the mountain outside the martial arts field. Liangzhou was not like the capital. Naturally, it would not be like the wealthy families of the past. They would either hold banquets in their own courtyards, restaurants, or pleasure boats. They would invite their colleagues and friends and fill the table with delicacies. Admiring the moon in Liangzhou was nothing more than lighting a bonfire. The recruits would sit in a circle and eat something rare. Perhaps there would be rice wine. His companions bragged, gossiped, drank wine, ate meat, and looked at the moon. That was all. In the afternoon, He Yen went back to his room and changed into a clean set of clothes. The new recruits of the Liang Province Guard had uniforms for spring, summer, autumn, and winter. They could wear spring and autumn clothes, and there were two in total, one red and one black. The style was simple and resistant to dirt. He Yen changed into a red one and went to look for Cheng Lisu. Cheng Lisu had already come to the martial arts arena in the morning and told He Yen to look for him in his room in the evening. He Yen guessed that Cheng Lisu wanted to give him something to eat. As expected, when he saw Cheng Lisu, the young man handed her a mahogany basket. The basket was exquisitely made, and there was an image of Chang-yi flying to the moon carved on top. When he opened it, he saw neatly arranged moon pastries. The fragrance assailed his nostrils. They were beautifully made and seemed to be delicious. "He Dage, this is for you," Cheng Lisu said in a small voice. "The moon pastries distributed by the Liang Province Guard are too rough. I'll give you the one someone gave me." He Yen said, "Thank you." In reality, she was not particularly interested in pastries. However, if she gave this basket of moon pastries to Xiaomai, the child would probably jump for joy. "You've never eaten this before, have you?" A trace of sympathy flashed through Cheng Lisu's eyes. She was also a bit proud. "This is not the best. The pastries from Shuo capital's Zuiyu restaurant are the best in the world. In the future, when we return to the capital together, I'll treat you to a meal at Zuiyu restaurant. I'll tell you a secret," Cheng Lisu said as if she was presenting a treasure. "My uncle also likes the food at Zuiyu restaurant." He Yen thought that Cheng Lisu was the same as He Yunsheng. She worshipped and admired Xiaoju unconditionally. She thought that if she received Xiaoju's approval, then she would not be bad. However, to be honest, Xiaoju was indeed not bad. After he thanked Cheng Lisu for her gift, the sky gradually darkened. He Yen carried the basket of pastries out the door. At this moment, a bonfire had already been lit in the wilderness at the foot of the mountain. The bonfire was bright. Many new recruits had already arrived and were sitting on the ground near the bonfire. It was said that every new recruit would receive meat pies and oranges. There were also wooden sticks set up near the bonfire. Rabbits and fish were strung on them. It was obvious that they had been hunted on Baiyu Mountain. It seemed that there would be meat to eat today. He Yen was in an extremely good mood. He even swung the basket one after the other. The aroma of roasted game lingered nearby, making people feel hungry. She also saw that there was a large wine jar near each bonfire. The wine was probably not good wine. The smell was a bit pungent. However, at this time, only strong wine would be comfortable. She came a bit late. She first went to find Xiao Mai and the others. When she passed by the other new recruits, they all looked at her with a strange expression. They were probably guessing what good things she would get today. He Yen happily walked forward. When he reached a place near the foot of the mountain, he saw Xiao Mai and the others. Xiao Mai and the others were surrounding a bonfire. He Yen waved at him from afar and called out, "Xiao Mai." When the young man heard her voice, he turned his head and looked over. However, he did not respond to her as enthusiastically as usual. He seemed to be a little hesitant. He Yen walked closer to take a look. Other than Hong Shan and Shi Tu, Jiang Jiao, Wang Ba, and Huang Xiong were also there. The three of them gathered together. He Yen put down the basket in his hand and sat down cross-legged. He opened the basket lid and said with a smile, "Look what I brought for you. You don't have to thank me." She picked up an exquisite moon ball and handed it to Xiao Mai. This child was used to being greedy. She said, "Here." Xiao Mai was stunned for a moment. She slowly reached out and took it. She opened her mouth and wanted to say something but did not say it. He Yen said to the others, "If you want to eat, take it yourself." No one responded to her. He Yen raised his head. Everyone was staring at him. The way they looked at him was a little strange. Even the carefree Hong Shan was strangely silent. He Yen asked suspiciously, "What's wrong? Why do you all look like you've seen a ghost? Did something happen?" Hong Shan turned his head. Jiang Jiao's eyes flashed with a trace of sympathy. He said, "He Yen, don't be sad." "Why would I be sad?" He Yen was confused. The atmosphere was suffocating. He Yen looked at Huang Xiong. Huang Xiong looked away and rubbed the prayer beads in front of his chest. He looked like he had nothing to do with the affairs of the world. However, Wang Ba could not help but say, "Well, even if you didn't enter the vanguard, don't be too sad. Where there's a will, there's a way." He Yen breathed a sigh of relief and said, "I was wondering what happened. How could I not enter the vanguard, I?" Her words suddenly stopped. She looked at everyone. Everyone's faces were unbearable. She moved her lips and heard her own voice. It was as if it was floating in the air. "You really didn't enter? When you weren't here, Chief Instructor Shin went over there. Lei Ho entered the vanguard. You weren't mentioned." Xiao Mai carefully chose her words. Did they miss out? He Yen still had a trace of luck in his heart. Maybe it's because I didn't come just now. I asked Chief Instructor for you. Shi Tu said softly, "In this battle for the flag, none of us entered the vanguard. Among the others, apart from the others, that Lei Ho luckily entered." He Yen became silent. Everyone stared at him nervously. He Yen wanted to enter the vanguard. This matter was obvious to everyone. When he first came to Liangzhou, he could barely run while carrying weights. At that time, this youth forcefully endured it for the sake of entering the vanguard. His skills were so outstanding, and he even obtained first place in the battle for the flag. Not only did he not understand, but even in the eyes of the people around him, they also felt that it was incomprehensible. "It's okay, don't be angry." Hong Shan comforted her. "Isn't it just the vanguard? We don't care. Let's go to another camp. Infantry camp, cavalry camp. As long as you have the ability, why worry about not being appreciated?" He is such a fine horse, he needs to be appreciated by Bo Lu. If they don't want you, it's because they don't have the foresight. That's right. Jiang Jiao also felt sorry for her. He Yan was far more worthy of being an opponent than Lei Ho. You're so strong. You're like a raging fire that can see true gold. In the future, people will know. Everyone was talking at once to comfort her. But when they saw the youth, who had always been bright and cheerful, for the first time, lowering his head and not saying a word, his entire body filled with dispiritedness and dejection, they gradually quieted down. Hong Shan poked Xiao Mai's arm, indicating for Xiao Mai to say a few words. Xiao Mai was racking her brain to think of something to say when He Yan suddenly stood up. Without saying a word, he was about to walk out. Hey, where are you going? Huang Xiong grabbed him. The youth hatefully said, I'm going to find Xiao Ju and ask him why he chose Lei Ho and not me. What part of me can't compare to Lei Ho? My name isn't even in the vanguard. Hong Shan was shocked. He didn't think that He Yan would angrily call out the governor's name. He hurriedly stopped He Yan's movements. You can't be so impulsive. If you go find military governor Xiao now, it will only make him unhappy. In the future, it will be even more impossible for you to go to the vanguard. Yes. Xiao Mai clumsily tried to persuade him. Ahigu, military governor Xiao might be deliberately keeping you around so that you can do something else, such as go to another battalion. You're so powerful, there's no reason for him not to choose you. I'm powerful. He Yan was so angry that his face turned green. Let Xiao Ju stand in front of me and we fight. I don't think he'll be able to beat me. Jiang Jiao hurriedly covered He Yan's mouth. For him to say such words, it could be seen that he was really angry. Everyone was afraid that he would find trouble with Xiao Ju in a fit of anger, so they hurriedly pulled him back to his seat. Huang Xiong said, Young man, don't be so impatient. As long as you're alive, you won't have to worry about firewood. Right now, he's the military governor and you're a new recruit. How can you speak to him as an equal? Wait until you become an official and a general in the future, then you can look at him again. Then we'll have to wait 8 to 10 years. Wang Ba muttered, who knows if he'll become a general. Jiang Jiao also said, this military governor Xiao is really something. We're clearly first, and Lei Ho was defeated by He Yan. Why would he abandon He Yan and choose Lei Ho? I heard, Wang Ba thought for a moment. That Lei Ho seems to have some relationship with one of the instructors here. They might be relatives. Maybe he got in through the back door. I think these nobles have power and influence, so they don't care about the lower class. Xiao Mai couldn't help but say, military governor Xiao isn't that kind of person. There must be some misunderstanding. Wang Ba rolled his eyes at him. Whose side are you on? Xiao Mai didn't say anything. Everyone, He Yan suppressed his anger and said, I have a terrible headache. Can you give me some peace and quiet for a while? Everyone immediately fell silent. The bonfire danced in front of them. The night sky was dyed red by the flames. He Yan couldn't understand why Xiao Ju would choose Lei Ho to enter the vanguard battalion. She admitted that she had been blind for some time, but compared to Xiao Ju's blindness, she was still far from it. Could it be that she didn't perform well in the Liang province guard? She couldn't have performed better. Didn't she fight for many flags? She didn't leave any face for others. She even broke through a formation that a normal recruit found difficult to break. How could Xiao Ju not be moved by such a talent? She wanted to take back her words about Xiao Ju not being bad. He Yan only felt his liver hurt from anger. He didn't think that this wasn't the end. After a while, Chief Instructor Shen walked over. Under everyone's gaze, he ordered people to carry a small box over. He said to everyone, you're all here. It's good that we won first place in this flag battle. Tonight is also the Mid-Autumn Festival. This is your prize. Xiao Mai went over and opened the box. She saw a small jar of wine and a few ingots of silver inside. This is 18 immortals. Such a small jar is worth 100 taels, Chief Instructor Shin said with satisfaction. You can drink tonight. Don't be greedy. 18 immortals, Wang Ba smacked his lips. I didn't think that I would be able to drink 18 immortals here. My life was worth it. In an instant, he forgot who was the one who had just cursed powerful nobles. Huang Xiong also swallowed. They were all heroes and loved wine. Moreover, it was precious wine. Even someone as young as Xiaomai who didn't like wine grabbed an ingot of silver and took a bite. This prize wasn't big, but it definitely wasn't small. Among the joy, He Yan appeared particularly unique. She only glanced at the box and suddenly laughed. It seems that our commander-in-chief doesn't have a good life. Shin Han was stunned. He's so poor. The young man didn't even look at him. He took a branch and fiddled with the firewood in the fire. He lowered his head and muttered to himself. Everyone could hear the sarcasm in his words. Hong Shan covered her mouth and smiled apologetically to Shin Han. This brother is drunk. He's drunk, he's talking nonsense. Chief Instructor, please don't lower yourself to the same level as a child. Shin Han inexplicably left. After Shin Han left, He Yan looked at the box on the ground and couldn't help but sneer. This little thing, are you trying to dismiss a beggar? Brother, this little thing is good enough. Huang Xiong patiently said, you're taking your anger out on him. He Yan was suppressing her anger and didn't want to speak. Huang Xiong sat down beside her and held her shoulder. Looking at the dancing flames in front of him, he said in a low voice, young person, don't be disheartened. It's just that you've encountered a hurdle. Look at me. He pointed to himself, you've only lost a chance to enter the vanguard. Back then, I had nothing. He couldn't bear to touch the jar of 18 immortals. He only took the jar of yellow wine and poured 2 large bowls. He gave one to He Yan and took the other for himself. He tasted a mouthful, saying, such strong wine. Seeing that He Yan didn't speak, he pointed to the prayer beads around his neck, saying, this is my mother's. The prayer beads were dark and flashed with a warm light. It was extremely incompatible with his valiant physique, but she had never seen Huang Xiong take it out before. He then pointed to the blade beside him. This blade has killed 19 people. These words were somewhat frightening. For a moment, even Wang Ba and the others looked at him. The light in He Yan's eyes moved slightly, looking at her. Seeing that she finally reacted, Huang Xiong said in a low, muffled voice, back then, I was as old as you. Our family had a blade manual that was passed down from our ancestors. After someone found out, they came to buy it. My father refused to sell it. At that time, my companions and I went outside to cool off. After we came back, our entire family was silenced. All of our belongings were still in the house, but the blade manual was missing. Xiaomai cried out in alarm, this is, for the blade manual, someone exterminated my entire Huang family. When Huang Xiong said this, his expression was very calm. She didn't know if it was because too much time had passed, or if it was because of something else. He said, I reported it to the government, but the local officials couldn't do anything about it. Therefore, I personally investigated it. I used up all of my family's wealth and carried a blade for 1,000 li alone, searching for traces of the culprits. After a full 3 years, I finally found where they were. I was afraid that I wouldn't be able to take revenge and would instead lose my life. I wasn't afraid of death, but I didn't want to die in vain. I was the only one left in the Huang family. If I died, no one would seek justice for them. Therefore, I pretended to be a coolie and entered that family's house. During the day, I observed the terrain and their daily habits. At night, I practiced my blade skills. A year and a half later, I found an opportunity and took revenge for my Huang family in one night. This story was thrilling, but he told it in a casual manner. The danger in it could be imagined. However, the bald man's eyes were only calm. He looked at He Yen and said, 10 years is not too late for a gentleman to take revenge. If I risked my life to seek justice from them at that time, in the end, it would only be a life and death struggle. But now you see, the enemy is dead, and I'm still alive. I can even drink wine and eat meat with you here. Tell me, who won? He wanted to use his own matter to tell He Yen not to act on impulse. He Yen smiled and was about to speak when he saw Jiang Jiao reach out and pour himself a bowl of yellow wine. He raised his head and took a big gulp. He was not as good at drinking as Huang Xiong. His face was red from the spiciness of the wine. He reached out to wipe the wine stain on his lips and blurted out, "That's right. Who doesn't feel sad at times? What are you doing? Look at me, the young master of the martial arts school. That sounds good. I also have a fiancé." Xiaomai widened her eyes and was about to ask, but Shi Tu nudged her and made her quiet down. Do you know how she died? Jiang Jiao's eyes were a little red. He said in a muffled voice, she died for love. She liked someone else and refused to marry me. She died for love with that scholar. Tell me, do you think I'm worse off than you? No wonder Jiang Jiao, with his good looks and skills, joined the army. After this incident, he was disheartened and left his hometown. What the eye doesn't see, the heart doesn't grieve over. Everyone looked at Wang Ba. Wang Ba was puzzled and then said angrily, "Why are you all looking at me? I don't have a story. Are you all crazy? Why are you talking about this nonsense? Are you all here to see who is worse off?" Chapter 86. The moon was white, and the mountains were clear and spacious. The bonfire reflected the aroma of wine, and the atmosphere was elegant. The recruits lowered their heads to drink and eat meat, and raised their heads to chat and admire the moon. This became a unique scene for the Liang province guards. Sparks floated out along with the autumn wind, making people wonder if they would burn their clothes. In just a moment, they were reduced to ashes, accompanied by the soft whimpers of people. Xiaomai sobbed, "I've forgotten what my parents look like. I'm even worse," Wang Ba said expressionlessly, "I've never seen my parents since I was born." He Yen. She raised her hand and drank a big mouthful of wine, trying to calm herself down. Originally, they were trying to comfort her, so they compared their own unhappy experiences. In the end, it became a comparison of who was more miserable. This was great. The recruits beside them were all laughing and chatting happily, but they were the only ones who were gloomy. Looking at Xiaomai and Wang Ba who were hugging each other and crying, and then looking at young Master Jiang who was drinking alone with red eyes, He Yen was speechless. Well, she didn't know who was comforting who. Huang Xiong glanced at her and said, "Brother He, your alcohol tolerance is not bad." He Yen was stunned and looked down at herself. Unknowingly, she had already drunk 3 bowls. She didn't know how much the original lady He could drink, but she thought that the weak lady He wouldn't drink such pungent and strong alcohol with a chipped bowl. However, to the previous General Fei Hong, this was very familiar. When it was cold, when she was afraid, when she was upset, when she was hungry, if she had alcohol at hand, she could temporarily resist the difficult times. Alcohol could drive away the cold, strengthen one's courage, satisfy one's hunger, and drown one's sorrows. When she was in Shuajing, she didn't touch a single drop of alcohol, afraid that she would be exposed. When she was in the Fuyue army and in Mo County, she gradually became used to drinking. She had also trained her alcohol tolerance. None of the young generals and new recruits in the tent could drink as much as her. Sometimes, when celebrating a great victory, she was the only one who could drink until the end. This might be the legendary Duguchilbai. What surprised her the most was Shi Tu. She had thought that Shi Tu, who had grown up in the mountains and looked strong, could hold his liquor well. Unexpectedly, he fell asleep before he even finished half a bowl of wine. Was he drunk just like that? His remaining half bowl of wine was taken away by his younger brother, Xiaomai. He drank with Wang Ba and said, "I didn't expect everyone to be in the same boat." In this case, We will be a family in the future. After saying that, he drank it all in one gulp. His nose was stung red by the spicy wine. Then, in less than the time it took for an incense stick to burn, he followed his elder brother and fell on his back, drunk. He Yen said. You really are biological brothers. Wang Ba felt like he had lost a drinking buddy in such a short time, so he went to put his arm around Jiang Jiao's shoulder and handed Jiang Jiao a skewer of roasted rabbit meat, saying, Don't just drink to drown your sorrows. Come, eat some meat. Your fiancé didn't choose you because you two weren't fated to be together. This was the first time he said something like a human. In life, meeting and parting are all fated. There's no need to force it. Jiang Jiao took the rabbit meat from him and continued to drink silently. Seeing this, Huang Xiong smiled. He looked at the moon in the sky and said to himself, I miss my family. He Yen took out a moon ball from the basket of desserts that Qing Lisu gave her. The moon ball was small and shaped like a water chestnut flower. On top of it was written the words, Good flowers, full moon, in red. She took a bite and tasted the sweetness of sesame and peach kernels. If they were still alive, I wouldn't be here. I would be in the village, Huang Xiong said, my mother's cooking is very delicious. I want to eat her cooking. He Yen lowered her head and ate the biscuit silently. Huang Xiong asked, What about you? He turned his head and looked at He Yen. How do you spend your days at this time in the past? The Mid-Autumn Festival in the past? He Yen was a bit absent-minded. Before she joined the army, she spent the Mid-Autumn Festival with other people in the He family. But because of her special identity, people stared at her wherever she went, so she didn't have much freedom. She actually liked the hustle and bustle of the moon sacrifice ceremony, but because she was wearing a mask, it was inconvenient. She was an awkward existence in the He family. In terms of identity, she was the legitimate daughter of the first wife. But on the other hand, she didn't belong to the main branch or the second branch. When she joined the army in the Mo County for 3 years, she lived every day in fear. She didn't know when she would die on the battlefield. She didn't even want to think about the reunion during the Mid-Autumn Festival. Later, she returned to the capital and married into the Su family. Around this time last year, she was already blind. Her heart was full of hope for that person, but before she could achieve it, she fell into darkness. At that time, she thought that she couldn't get over it and that her life would be like this. On the 15th day of the 8th lunar month, she asked Su Zhiheng to take her up the mountain to worship Buddha. She hoped that Bodhisattva would bless her and let her see the light again. Su Zhiheng agreed. In fact, that day, she didn't really want to ask Bodhisattva to bless her. The tip of her tongue hurt. She accidentally bit her tongue. The sweet taste was instantly covered by the stinging pain. He Yen came back to his senses and avoided Huang Xiong's gaze. He said as if nothing had happened, just live like this. It's about the same as it is now. When I see you, it's like seeing myself in the past. Huang Xiong took a sip of wine and said, You're just like me in the past. He Yen smiled and said, Brother, my family is living well. In fact, they were living a better life than most people. But you're not satisfied. She heard Huang Xiong's voice and turned her head to look. The bald man's face showed the wisdom and vicissitudes of a middle-aged man who had experienced the hardships of life. He touched his prayer beads and said, You haven't taken your revenge. You're not satisfied, so you're always distressed and trapped yourself. He Yan's heart moved, but he didn't say anything. I don't know what kind of hatred you have. He looked at the moon. Sometimes, your eyes are the same as mine. He Yen was a little confused. Did she have it? She always thought that she hid it well. One day, it will be better. The bald man lowered his head and patted her shoulder. You have to believe in this. He Yen didn't say anything. He silently picked up his bowl and drank. Huang Xiong didn't say anything. He ate meat and drank wine by himself. Wang Ba was also a little drunk. He sat there holding his head and smiled foolishly. Jiang Jiao buried his head between his knees. It wasn't clear if he was crying or sleeping. The instructors also gathered together and ate meat and drank wine around the bonfire. They finally saw the results of the hard training in the past few days on this batch of recruits. They were all a lot more relaxed. Qing Lisu also mingled with them. He was a young master from the capital and had never tasted this kind of novel way of playing. Even the roasted rabbit leg sprinkled with coarse salt was delicious. He originally wanted to talk to He Yan when he had the time, but after drinking a mouthful of wine, he felt his legs go weak. He couldn't walk and sat back down. The instructors laughed kindly. Someone said, "Young Master Cheng, you still need to practice your alcohol tolerance. With this little alcohol tolerance, you can't be a soldier of the Liang Province Guard." "I'm not a soldier of the Liang Province Guard," Qing Lisu muttered. "I just came here to have fun." This child could always say that he couldn't do it. If he was a grandson of the instructors, he would have been picked up and beaten 10 times. But this person was Xiao Ju's nephew, so everyone said, "Young Master Cheng is so open-minded. It's not good to drink too much. My wife doesn't allow me to drink. Let's all learn from young Master Cheng." But young Master Cheng, Liang Ping asked him, "Is the governor really not coming to have fun with us?" "Uncle doesn't like noisy places," Qing Lisu replied. "He definitely won't come." Everyone felt that it was a pity. Some people felt that Xiao Ju was too unreasonable. After all, it was the Mid-Autumn Festival. A general who didn't even have fun with his subordinates during the Mid-Autumn Festival was too arrogant. But there were also some people who didn't mind. Ma Damei chuckled. "Why don't we send some food and wine to the governor? It's hard to be alone during the festival." "There's no need," Qing Lisu said. "My uncle won't drink this kind of low-quality rice wine." Everyone, well, that was the second son of a Shao family in Shuajing. He definitely wouldn't force himself to drink. Dumao asked curiously, "Young Master Cheng, do you know how the governor's alcohol tolerance is?" "I heard that General Feihong won't get drunk even after 1,000 cups. I don't know if the governor is better or worse than General Feihong." When the instructors heard this, they immediately looked at Qing Lisu with bright eyes. Whenever there was a discussion about who was better, General Feihong or General Fengyun, it was always fresh. From swordsmanship to alcohol tolerance, from height to temperament, people wanted to compare them one by one. Unfortunately, the two of them had never appeared together except when they were outside the window. They had never personally competed. Moreover, General Feihong always wore a mask. Who was better was still a mystery. "Of course it's my uncle," Qing Lisu answered without hesitation. "I've never seen my uncle drunk in my entire life." In reality, Qing Lisu had never seen Xiao Ju drink before. But he couldn't say this in front of the instructors. No matter how good General Feihong was, he couldn't be better than his uncle. Go, don't talk about people behind their backs." Shen Han waved his hand. Drink, why are you nagging like an old woman?" "Young Master Cheng, come, let me toast you." "Young Master Cheng." Young Master Cheng's cheeks were red. He was already drunk. It was night. The green curtain covered the bright moon. There were only a few figures on the bed. The sound of autumn was quiet. Someone was playing the guqin. On the moon, the magnolia had bones, and the person in the ice was like jade. A long sword hung on the wall like frost and snow. A young man in a robe had a handsome appearance. His expression was calm. When his hands touched the strings of the guqin, the music was moving and intoxicating. He was playing, flowing light. The sound of the guqin was distant, like pearls falling on a plate. It was the night of the Mid-Autumn Festival. It was supposed to be a time of reunion. Even though the instructors of the Liangzhou Guards were thousands of miles away with their families, they were still gathered together, singing and drinking. It was not as quiet as him. He didn't seem to feel anything. He just focused on plucking the strings. His tied-up black hair hung over his shoulders. Under the moonlight, it was covered with a layer of coldness. From spring to autumn, from summer to winter, it seemed like it was just the blink of an eye. The moonlight was even colder because of his guqin. The night sky was as clear as water. The sound of the guqin seemed to float endlessly in the vast sky. It made people want to cry. Suddenly, something smashed into the courtyard. It made a crisp sound and interrupted the cold sound of the guqin. Xiaoju paused and raised his head. Through the window, he saw that something had been thrown in from outside the courtyard. He paused for a moment, stood up, and pushed the door open. At this time, a third thing came in and landed beside him. He bent down to pick it up and found that it was a stone. Slave Fei appeared from behind and said in a low voice, "Young master, outside." Xiaoju opened the courtyard door. A young man in red stood outside. He held a small jar of wine in his hand. The cork had been removed and the fragrance was strong. It was the 18 immortals. He was generous. It was such a small jar of wine. Ordinary people would hide it for a long time before they were willing to take a sip. Looking at him, he must have drunk a lot. This person was He Yan. Xiaoju looked at him indifferently. He Yan widened his eyes as if he just saw him clearly. He said, "Xiaoju." Fei knew who was behind him couldn't help but look at He Yan. He actually dared to call the young master by his name. He was really bold. "What are you doing here?" Xiaoju asked him. "I thought about it again and again." The young man had drunk a lot of wine. His whole body reeked of alcohol but his expression was normal. He didn't look drunk at all. It was hard to tell if he was drunk or not. He said, "You chose Lei Ho to go to the vanguard. I'm not convinced." "So Xiaoju." His mouth curved. "Let's fight." Before he finished speaking, he pounced towards Xiaoju. Fei knew who was behind him saw this and was about to step forward. But he heard Xiaoju say, "Don't move." He didn't dare to move. The young man flew forward and raised his fist towards Xiaoju. Xiaoju dodged to the side and frowned at him. He Yan didn't have a weapon. He came empty-handed. If he was an assassin, he would be too stupid. But his words were clear and his eyes were clear. He didn't look like someone who was drunk and had gone crazy. Xiaoju simply looked at him calmly, waiting to see what this person wanted to do. He Yan's attack didn't work. He turned around and attacked again. The young man's movements were nimble. He really wanted to fight, but his method was clumsy and crude. At first glance, it looked like a fight between students in a school. They only knew how to use their fists and feet to greet each other, but didn't care how accurate they were. Xiaoju dodged to the side again. After 2 consecutive failed sneak attacks, He Yan doubtfully muttered to himself, "When did my skills become so bad?" Fei knew who was waiting at the side. Did this young man think that he could beat second young master Xiao? He had long heard that this He Yan of the Liang province guard was arrogant and conceited. Now that he saw it, it was true. Young master really had a good temper. He didn't throw this arrogant brat out of the door. She was defeated time and time again, but she didn't feel discouraged at all. She immediately came at Xiaoju again, but this time, Xiaoju dodged her again. Xiaoju was just about to speak when she suddenly saw a black object pouncing at her from behind. She frowned, and without thinking, she drew her autumn drinking sword and slashed horizontally. Crash! That thing broke into pieces. He retreated a few steps, but it didn't touch him. He Yan, who came with the black object, couldn't dodge in time and was drenched from head to toe. The moon was full and the wind was fresh. The osmanthus had just bloomed and the fragrance of wine filled the air. The ground was littered with the fragments of the 18 immortals. Each piece was fresh and fragrant. The young man frowned and looked over. She seemed to have been awakened by the fragments of the wine jars on the ground. She looked at Xiaoju and took a step forward. She looked like a young lady whose hairpin was stepped on in the flower market and said, "If it's broken, you'll pay for it." Fei Nu looked at her and felt that this young man was really drunk. Otherwise, he wouldn't be speaking so confidently and incoherently. She whispered to Xiao Ju, "Young master, do you want me to take him away?" Xiao Ju raised her hand to stop her and shook her head lightly. The master and servant had been together for many years. They could tell what the other was thinking with just one look. Fei Nu immediately understood why Xiao Ju didn't throw He Yan out immediately. It wasn't because she had a good temper, but because she wanted to test He Yan. This young man's identity was suspicious. He was suspicious from head to toe. If she could get some information out of him while he was drunk, it would save her a lot of effort. If he pretended to be drunk tonight and did something else, then it would be even more unforgivable. Fei Nu hid in the tree and didn't say anything else. Xiao Ju turned and walked into the house. As she walked, she said, "Why should I pay for it?" Hearing this, the young man rushed into Xiao Ju's house. She ran so fast that she even staggered a bit. She rushed in front of Xiao Ju and blocked Xiao Ju's path. She said, "Do you know who I am?" Xiao Ju laughed, her eyes cold. "Who are you?" He Yan slapped his thigh. "A real man never changes his name. I am He Yan. Liang Province's #1 guard." Liang Province's #1 guard. Xiao Ju looked at her with a smile that wasn't a smile. "Who told you that? Do I need someone to tell me?" She didn't know if the young man was drunk or not, but his tone was amazing. "I know what I'm doing." Xiao Ju walked around him and put down her sword. She picked up the teapot on the table and poured herself a cup of tea. She had only taken one step when the young man stuck to her like a tail. He stood in front of her and asked, "Tell me, am I short?" Did this person like to compare height with others when he was drunk? Xiao Ju glanced at his hair that just reached her chest and nodded. "Yes." "He Yan, I'm not short." "Xiao Ju," He Yan asked her again, "Am I stupid?" Xiao Ju stopped pouring tea and stared at him. She said slowly, "Stupid." "He Yan, I'm not stupid." Xiao Ju suddenly regretted that she didn't throw He Yan out of the courtyard immediately. Instead, she came here to ask for trouble. Other than listening to his nonsense, she didn't seem to get any useful information. Either He Yan was too stupid, or this person was so astute that not a single drop of water could leak out. "What else do you want to say about yourself? Let's talk about it together." He lowered his eyes and said indifferently. "He Yan, I'm tall and mighty, fierce and invincible, handsome and righteous. I'm such a righteous person. Why doesn't anyone like me? Do you know how hard I work every day? Xiao Ju, because of you, I'm very unhappy tonight. Let me ask you." She took a step forward and put as much distance between her and Xiao Ju as possible. She looked up at him and asked eagerly, "Do you like me?" Xiao Ju took a step back and put some distance between them. He brushed his sleeve that was out of shape because of her tugging. It was as if he had seen the plague. He replied calmly, "I'm not gay." "I'm not gay either." He Yan muttered and suddenly raised his head. His expression was sad and angry. He asked loudly, "Then why do you prefer Lei Ho over me? That person is only a little taller than me. How can he compare to me? Whether it's appearance, martial arts, or our past relationship, Xiao Ju, you're too much. You have no taste. I'm very disappointed." At this moment, Shen Han, who had just walked out of the room and was about to deliver some roasted rabbit meat to Xiao Ju, covered his mouth in surprise. Just now, he seemed to have heard an incredible secret. Inside the room, a young man wearing a white undershirt looked at the person in front of him speechlessly. The young man looked up at him. His eyes were bright and there was no trace of fear or hesitation in his voice. He was so calm that it made people wonder what he was thinking. What did he mean by past relationship? It was just that he had given him some medicine from the Mandarin duck pot. How could it be a past relationship? This person was too friendly. But it's nothing. The young man suddenly raised the corner of his mouth. He smiled slyly and said in a low voice, "You chose Lei Ho to enter the vanguard. Every day, I'll find Lei Ho to spar with. 10 times, I'll lose 10 times. Everyone in the Liang province guards will know that Xiao Ju is blind. What will you do when the time comes?" Xiao Ju, after saying this, He Yan let out a drunken belch. His body tilted and he fell onto Xiao Ju's soft couch. When he fell, half of his body fell onto the evening fragrance zither. The strings of the zither let out an ear-piercing sound. With a clang, the zither fell to the ground. Xiao Ju stood in the middle of the room. His eyebrows were faintly twitching. He felt that today's idea of fishing for information while drunk was really terrible. Glancing at the door, he saw a figure hesitating. He said coldly, "If you don't come in, what are you doing outside?" Shen Han was startled. He trembled as he walked over. Just now, he had heard the secret at the door. When he entered the courtyard, he was seen by Fei Nu. He really didn't know whether to advance or retreat. At this moment, the commander-in-chief was in a bad mood. He shouldn't make fun of him. This subordinate brought some freshly roasted rabbit meat from outside. I thought that the commander-in-chief might not have eaten dinner, so I specially brought it over. Shen Han placed the roasted meat wrapped in oil paper on the table. "Commander-in-chief, please enjoy. This subordinate will leave first." "Wait." Xiao Ju said unhappily, "Such a big living person. Can't you see him?" He indicated for Shen Han to look at He Yan. When Shen Han saw him, his heart jumped. Just now, he had heard that He Yan had a close relationship with Xiao Ju. Looking at him now, this young man was so generous as to sleep on second young Master Zhao's soft couch. That was second young Master Zhao's soft couch. Among the Liang province guards, he was probably the only one who had the guts to do so. The relationship between the two of them was indeed not ordinary. Xiao Ju walked in front of the soft couch. She lifted He Yan up by the collar and threw him in front of Shen Han. "He's your man. Take him away." I don't dare," Shen Han said. "Xiao Ju, what?" Shen Han hurriedly said, "This subordinate means that the recruits of the Liang province guards are all under the commander-in-chief. How can you say that he's my man? He's the commander-in-chief's man." Xiao Ju was so angry that she laughed. "Shen Han, you talk a lot today. This subordinate understands." Shen Han shivered. "This subordinate will take him away now." Just as he turned and walked halfway, Shen Han seemed to have thought of something. He asked, "Where does the commander-in-chief think this subordinate should send this young man?" Xiao Ju looked at him calmly. "Do you want me to send him to your house?" "No, there's no need." Shen Han's scalp went numb. He said, "He Yan. Just send him back to his original room." After Shen Han left, Fei Nu walked into the room. Xiao Ju had already picked up the evening fragrance zither from the floor. Thanks to He Yan's pressure, one of the strings on the zither had broken. Looking at the broken string, the young man couldn't help but pinch his forehead. "Young master." Fei Nu looked in the direction Shen Han had left. "Head instructor Shen is a little strange today." "He's often very strange," Xiao Ju replied. "Young master, do you think He Yan was drunk today?" Xiao Ju put the zither away. Just now, He Yan had intended to drink tea, so the tea in the teacup had already turned cold. He poured away the cold tea and poured a new cup. He took a sip and said, "I'm not sure." He wasn't sure if He Yan was drunk or not, because a normal sober person probably wouldn't talk to him like this. But looking at her steps, words, and expression, there wasn't a trace of confusion. The most important thing was that tonight, other than crushing a zither, breaking a jar of wine, and saying a bunch of crazy things, he didn't do anything else. Including revealing which side he was on. This was hard to understand. He seems to have some complaints about Lei Ho being able to enter the Vanguard Battalion. Fei Nu said, he wants to enter the Vanguard Battalion. Xiao Ju mocked, it's not just the Vanguard Battalion, he wants to get into our 9 Flags Battalion. Then Fei Nu asked, should we send him to the Vanguard Battalion and beat him at his own game? No need, Xiao Ju said, I have other plans. Fei Nu didn't say anything else. Xiao Ju thought about what He Yan had said just now. He wanted to find Lei Ho every day to compare notes with him, to prove that he didn't have good eyesight. This kind of shameless behavior, this person was really good at it. Looking at the mess in the house, the broken pieces of the zither were everywhere in the courtyard, He Yan actually had the face to say, because of you, I'm very unhappy this mid-autumn festival. It really didn't make sense. The young man stood in the house, elegant as jade, tall and straight like a pine tree. After a while, he sneered, crazy. Outside, Shen Han, who was carrying He Yan on his back, was also very unhappy. When the bystanders saw this, they all looked at Shen Han in surprise and said, He Yan is drunk, why is the chief instructor still carrying him? Shen Han's face darkened and he didn't say a word. If he hadn't discovered the relationship between He Yan and Xiao Ju, Shen Han would at most find someone to carry He Yan back. But now that he knew that the relationship between the two of them wasn't shallow, Shen Han didn't dare to neglect it. He Yan had just said that he had past friendship with Xiao Ju. It seemed that they had known each other for a long time. Why did the chief instructor pretend not to know He Yan and secretly investigate He Yan's identity? Could it be that the two of them were originally close, but there were many unforeseen events that happened along the way, resulting in their current situation? No wonder everyone in Dawei knew that military governor Xiao didn't get close to women. With such a handsome appearance and a heroic and outstanding appearance, so many women were eagerly throwing themselves at him, but he wasn't moved by countless beauties in front of him. It turned out that he didn't like women at all. When they were at Xiao Ju's door, He Yan asked, why do you like Lei Ho and not me? His tone was so mournful that it could make anyone who heard it cry. Unfortunately, the chief instructor's heart was as hard as steel and he was completely unmoved. Shen Han's imagination ran wild. The more nervous he was, the more strange stories he remembered. For example, He Yan and Xiao Ju did know each other in the past and were on good terms for a period of time. But later, Xiao Ju found out that He Yan's identity was different, so she cut off her feelings for him and drew a clear line between them. He Yan was young and unsatisfied. When he found out that Xiao Ju was coming to Liangzhou, he joined the army and sought an explanation from Xiao Ju. He even trained hard and wanted to enter the Vanguard Battalion to make Xiao Ju look at him in a new light. He Yan indeed did well. Unfortunately, in order to avoid arousing suspicion, Xiao Ju actually picked Lei Ho's name. He Yan was heartbroken and in pain. He couldn't help but drink to drown his sorrows. After drinking, he revealed his true feelings and sought an explanation from Xiao Ju. Military Governor Xiao, whose heart was as hard as steel, flatly refused. But in the end, he still considered their old relationship and allowed He Yan to sleep on his soft couch. Very good. Shen Han applauded himself in his heart. It was very reasonable. It should be like this, not far from the truth. Chapter 87. The second day after the Mid-Autumn Festival was a rainy day. When He Yan woke up, the rest of the people were still sleeping on their beds. They were probably still drunk from the previous night. However, the order to run had been blown outside. Even if it was a rainy day, they still had to train. She climbed out of bed and woke up everyone in the house one by one. My head is so dizzy. Xiao Mai was young and could not withstand this kind of hangover. She still felt that the after effects were not over yet. He Gu, what are you doing? He Yan handed her a water bag. Quickly drink 2 mouthfuls and wash your face. It's time to run. Xiao Mai took the water bag and drank in big gulps. Hong Shan saw this and laughed. Xiao Mai, You and your brother still have to practice more. How can you drink so little? You're not even as good as Ahigu. Xiaomai glanced at He Yan and said, Ahigu, your alcohol tolerance is so good. It's a so-so. He Yan said perfunctorily. She did not feel a headache at the moment. Instead, she felt refreshed. However, she had already forgotten when she returned to the house. She only remembered that she was drinking with Huang Xiong in front of the bonfire. She drank a few more bowls and seemed to have opened the 18 immortals. Oh right, where were the 18 immortals? Why didn't I see the jar of wine that military governor Xiao rewarded? Hong Shan also remembered. That's a good thing. Don't lose it. It might be at Wang Ba's place. He Yan replied. She carefully tried to recall, but she really could not remember anything. She used to be able to drink 1,000 cups without getting drunk. However, that was not true. She could still get drunk if she drank too much. However, He Yan was different from other people when he was drunk. When he was drunk, his face did not show it. He looked especially sober. Previously, when he was drunk in the army, he even discussed the art of war with the military advisor in the tent for an entire night. He looked very energetic. The next day, the military advisor praised He Yan as a rare hero. In fact, He Yan did not remember what he did last night. Even if he was drunk, others could not tell. He also wouldn't walk unsteadily and speak carelessly. Therefore, no one would see her lose her composure. But what exactly did she do last night? He couldn't figure it out no matter how much he thought about it. Thus, he followed the crowd and quickly washed his face and tidied himself up. He then went outside to take the biscuits and ran away. After the rain, the ground was wet. She couldn't run too fast in case she slipped. He Yan felt that someone was looking at her while she was running. She followed the gaze and saw Chief Instructor Shin Han standing at the end of the horse path. He was staring at her without blinking with a complicated expression. Seeing He Yan looking over, Shin Han looked away. This was very strange. She was very sensitive to people's gazes. Shin Han seemed to be thinking about something. She looked at Shin Han again, but Shin Han had already walked away. Probably because He Yan's gaze on Shin Han was too obvious, a recruit running next to him said, "The chief instructor is so fierce, but he treats you quite well. What's the relationship between you two? Why is he taking care of you like this?" Taking care of me? He Yan was puzzled. How come I didn't know? If Shin Han really took care of her, he wouldn't have sent Lei Ho to the vanguard battalion. Last night, when we went back, we saw Chief Instructor Shin personally carry you back to your room. The recruit seemed dissatisfied. You are too ungrateful. If it were me, Shin Jiaodo would not be so considerate. He Yan was stunned. She asked, "You saw Chief Instructor Shin carry me back last night?" Yes, the recruit looked at her strangely. You don't remember? Maybe you don't remember. You were drunk. After he finished speaking, he ignored He Yan's expression and rushed ahead because his companions in front were calling him to hurry up. He Yan was left behind alone. She couldn't hide the surprise in her heart. She was drunk. Shin Han actually carried her back. What kind of logic was this? In the morning, she had asked Hong Shan and the others. Hong Shan and the others were drunk early in the morning. It was the recruits who dragged them back. When He Yan came back, no one was awake. No one knew when He Yan came back or how he came back. He Yan didn't think Shin Han was a considerate person. She thought about it, but she still couldn't figure out what had happened until the end of the run. She made up her mind. When the run was over and the drill started, she would go find Huang Xiong and the others. Maybe Huang Xiong would know. If Huang Xiong didn't know, she would directly ask Shin Han. When the run was over, everyone ran to the straw huts or tents to take shelter from the rain and drink water. Ching Lisu came. This young man was holding an oil paper umbrella. There were several red and white koi painted on the umbrella. It was quite interesting. He couldn't find He Yan, so he asked around. Finally, he found him under the straw hut. He Dage. He shouted. He Yan didn't expect Cheng Lisu to come find her. She got up and walked over to him. She asked curiously, "It's raining so heavily. Why aren't you in the house? This isn't the place to talk." Cheng Lisu pulled her to hide under the umbrella. After searching for a long time, they found the long frame of the training field with the flag on it. Only then did they stop and look at He Yan. "I was drunk last night. This morning, I heard my uncle talking to Fei Nu Dage. Only then did I know that you went to find my uncle last night." "I went to find your uncle?" He Yan was shocked. "That's right." He Yan didn't dare to believe it. She actually went to find Xiaoju. Now, she was quite dissatisfied with Xiaoju. It was also because of the vanguard battalion. She definitely didn't find Xiaoju to talk about old times and drink tea. "Then, why did I find your uncle?" He Yan asked slowly. Cheng Lisu wanted to say something but stopped. "Last night, you might have been drunk, He Yan," she made an effort to make herself smile. "Go ahead," she said. "You went to find my uncle and fought. You even crushed his guqin." Cheng Lisu answered honestly. He Yan closed his eyes. "Who won?" she asked. Cheng Lisu didn't expect He Yan to be concerned about the result at this time. He scratched his head and said, "It was probably my uncle. I heard that he asked Shen Jiaotou to bring you back." He Yan. "Fine. She really went to find Xiaoju when she was drunk and lost. Now, wouldn't Xiaoju have a bad impression of her? She would be one step further from entering the Nine Flags battalion." He Yan suddenly felt disheartened. It was probably impossible to get close to Xiaoju through the Nine Flags battalion. She might as well change her path and slowly rise up the ranks like before. Although it would be slower, she didn't know what rank He Rufei would be at by the time she grew up to be able to get close to He Rufei. Cheng Lisu looked at her sympathetically and tried her best to comfort her. "Big brother He, you don't have to be discouraged. My uncle. Actually, my uncle isn't that calculative. I'm here to tell you that it's best if you don't go to my uncle these days. Otherwise, he'll be angry. That guqin is very expensive. He's already being very lenient by not asking you to pay for it. I can't afford it either." He Yan answered dejectedly. "Look, things aren't that bad." Cheng Lisu added, "You don't have to be too sad. I'll put in a good word for you in front of my uncle." He Yan said listlessly, "Thank you very much." Cheng Lisu left. He Yan looked at the red and white koi fish disappearing into the distance and felt a wave of powerlessness. Originally, her brothers in the tent had said that drinking would make things worse. She had never taken them seriously, but now it seemed that it was true. She had only gotten drunk once in Liangzhou, and now she was in trouble. Why did Shen Han personally carry her back to her room? It was probably because he had witnessed such a chaotic moment and knew that she would never be able to get Xiaoju's favor in the future. His official career was hopeless, so he sympathized with her and did this. He Yan thought to himself, "Why don't I find an opportunity to ask Xiaoju for forgiveness and apologize sincerely? Maybe I can salvage the situation." At this moment, Xiaoju was sitting in front of a table in the room of the Liangzhou Right Guard Army's commander-in-chief. The invitation was sent to him by the Liangzhou County Magistrate, Sun Xiangfu. It said that in a few days, the imperial censor Yuan Baozhen from the capital would arrive in Liangzhou. Xiaoju's nephew, Cheng Lisu, was also invited to a banquet in his residence. Fei Nu stood behind Xiaoju and said, "Young master, it's inconvenient to bring young master Cheng to the city. Perhaps it's a hongmen banquet. I'm afraid there will be threats. Yuan Baozhen and Su Jingfu have secret connections. He's been working for Su Jingfu for a long time." Xiaoju played with the invitation in his hand and looked at the osmanthus tree by the window. He said calmly, "This time, he's coming for me. However, I also want to know what kind of chess piece Su Jingfu has planted in Liangzhou. Young master, what do you mean? Fei Nu asked hesitantly. If Yuan Baozhen is working for Su Jingfu, then Sun Xiangfu might be as well. Xiao Ju curled his lips and said, the Liangzhou County Magistrate should have been changed a long time ago. Young master is planning to attend the banquet. This subordinate wants to go with you. However, young master Cheng needs someone to protect him. If someone is plotting against him. He didn't finish his sentence. He was referring to He Yan. Currently, He Yan was the only person in the Liangzhou Guard whose identity was unknown and who was extremely dangerous. Moreover, young master Cheng trusts He Yan very much. If young master isn't here. If Cheng Lisu listened to He Yan and was tricked by He Yan, or even fell into He Yan's trap, it would not be worth it. When will the Wanning arrive in Liangzhou? Xiao Ju asked. The Wanning is still in Lu County. Fei Nu answered and looked at Xiao Ju. Young master, why don't we reject the invitation? No. Xiao Ju lowered his eyes. I must attend this banquet. When Cheng Lisu came back, he saw Xiao Ju sitting at his desk, reading a book. The book was a messy novel that he had secretly spent money to buy from the instructor. Cheng Lisu was shocked. Without saying anything, he went forward and said, Uncle. Xiao Ju was casually flipping through his book. Hearing this, his hand trembled. He looked at him and frowned. What are you calling for? I was wrong. Cheng Lisu said. What were you wrong about? Xiao Ju looked at him calmly. He didn't seem angry. Cheng Lisu was surprised that Xiao Ju didn't scold him for not practicing his calligraphy and reading these messy novels. He guessed that Xiao Ju was in a good mood today, so he shamelessly went forward. I wasn't wrong. I'm apologizing to you on behalf of my older brother. I heard that last night my older brother wanted to fight with you, to learn from each other. Uncle, you weren't angry, were you? Thinking about a certain lunatic who went crazy and beat his zither last night, Xiao Ju's eyes darkened. His tone was as indifferent as ever. No. That's good. Uncle, you're still so generous. Cheng Lisu hurriedly flattered him. Xiao Ju glanced at him. He took out an invitation and threw it at his face. See for yourself. What's this? Cheng Lisu asked as he picked it up. Isn't this an invitation? Someone sent you an invitation. My name is on it. Are we going to Liangzhou City? That's great. I've been in the guard station all day and I'm about to grow mushrooms. Let me see. Imperial Censor Yuan Baozhen, why does this name sound so familiar? He looked at Xiao Ju suspiciously. Uncle, who is Yuan Baozhen? You don't remember? Xiao Ju smiled and reminded him. The marriage between you and Miss Song was suggested by Lord Yuan to your father. Song Ci was Lord Yuan's superior. The Song family. Cheng Lisu loosened his grip on the invitation and it fell by his feet. He didn't seem to see it. He just stared blankly at Xiao Ju. Why would the Song family come to Liangzhou? It's not the Song family, Xiao Ju said calmly. It's Yuan Baozhen. Isn't that the same? Cheng Lisu muttered. They came to Liangzhou and invited me to a banquet. It can't be that they want to kidnap me and bring me back to Shua capital, right? I don't want to marry her. I don't want to get married. He seemed to suddenly come back to his senses and grabbed Xiao Ju's sleeve. Uncle, you can't just watch your nephew jump into a fire pit. What does that have to do with me? Xiao Ju pulled his sleeve out of his hand and flipped through his book. It has a lot to do with you. Cheng Lisu walked around the table and came to Xiao Ju's side. Uncle, you know that I don't like Miss Song. If I marry her, I'd rather die. I'll hang myself on the day of the wedding. Uncle, you won't leave me in the lurch, right? Xiao Ju stopped what he was doing and looked at him indifferently. He pulled out the sword at his waist and placed it on the table. Qing Lisu stuttered. What are you doing? You can kill yourself right now and see if I'll leave you in the lurch. Qing Lisu stared at the sword and cried. Uncle, I really don't want to go back to Shuo capital. I've been with you for half a year and I'm already used to life in the Liangzhou guard station. I really can't live without you. He hugged Xiaoju's leg and cried. Xiaoju pressed his forehead as if he couldn't take it anymore. Get up. Qing Lisu didn't move. I'll say it again. Get up. Qing Lisu still hugged Xiaoju's leg and blinked at him. Unless you promise me that you won't hand me over to the Song family. Didn't you say that you were tired of the guard station and wanted to go to Liangzhou? I don't want to anymore. The young man's voice was calm. That's the imperial censor Yuan Baozhen. Uncle, you're still General Fengyun Xiaohuaijin. Yuan Baozhen has seen you before and knows that you're avoiding him in Liangzhou. How about he complain to the Song family that you're neglecting him? Qing Lisu immediately replied, how could he have seen me before? I've never seen him before. My parents can't even wait to hide my appearance. If he had seen me before, he wouldn't have recommended me to official Song. I don't look like a good match for Miss Song. Is that so? Xiaoju's eyes flickered as he looked at the grief-stricken youth. You have to go. Since he hasn't seen you before, it's not like there's nothing we can do. Qing Lisu's eyes widened. Find someone to replace you at the banquet. Qing Lisu was stunned. After a while, he finally understood. This time, he stopped crying and hugging Xiaoju's leg. He stood up and clapped his hands. Wonderful. Uncle, you're right. Since he hasn't seen me before, we can just find someone to replace me. Do you have anyone in mind? Qing Lisu looked at him. In the Liangzhou guards, there doesn't seem to be anyone around your age and figure, Xiaoju said. If you're too far apart, you'll be discovered. Most of the soldiers in the Liangzhou guards barracks were burly men. Even the younger ones were mostly sturdy and tanned. Qing Lisu was a young master from Shuojing. He was raised like a king and his skin was soft and tender. It was obvious that he was different from the new recruits in the barracks. If you can't find him, then you should go yourself, Xiaoju said nonchalantly. Who said I can't find him? Qing Lisu panicked. He suddenly had an idea. My big brother is about the same size as me. Xiaoju raised his eyebrows. He didn't deny it. He Yan. That's right. He's my big brother. He's about the same age and figure as me. He's also smart. He'll be able to adapt and deal with Yuan Baozhen. Yuan Baozhen can take me away, but he might not be able to take my big brother away. Qing Lisu was new to He Yan. In his opinion, other than his uncle, He Yan was the most omnipotent person in the world. He Yan could do things that other people couldn't. Seeing that Xiaoju didn't say anything, Qing Lisu's heart tightened. He Yan went to fight with Xiaoju last night, so Xiaoju must still be angry at He Yan. He might not want to see He Yan. Just as he was thinking about how to persuade Xiaoju, he saw his young uncle close the book in his hand and say, okay. Qing Lisu's words of persuasion were stuck in his throat. He only had time to say, huh. Xiaoju looked at him. If you can persuade your big brother, then let him go in your place. After the afternoon practice, He Yan sat outside the martial arts field to rest. Huang Xiong and the others came to find him. They didn't say anything else. They first gave He Yan an ingot of silver that Shinhan sent over last night. Then they asked He Yan where the jar of 18 immortals went. I remember that you took it in the end. Huang Xiong asked, today, I went to find a few empty jars. Let's split a bit. What do you think? I think it's good. He Yan said, but we'll have to wait until the next flag competition. What do you mean? Wang Ba was a bit impatient. Suddenly, he understood something and looked at He Yan. You didn't drink it all, did you? Facing everyone's burning gaze, He Yan nodded and said, I'm really sorry. I wasn't careful and drank it all. He Yen. Wang Ba said loudly, you're too much. That's our flag. You drank it all yourself. Even bandits aren't as tyrannical as you. He rolled up his sleeves, wanting to hit He Yen. Halfway through, he remembered that he couldn't beat this person in front of him. He couldn't hit him, but he also couldn't not hit him. For a moment, he felt very awkward. Jiang Jiao and Shi Tu didn't think much of it. They weren't greedy for wine and weren't interested in it. Therefore, they didn't say anything. Although Huang Xiong wasn't as excited as Wang Ba, his eyes were also full of blame. If it were any other day, He Yen would feel apologetic for his behavior. But these days, she had heard bad news one after another. She was a bit numb. She really didn't have the strength to deal with the thoughts of these people in front of her. So, she just sat there, not saying a word. Seeing her silent and dejected appearance, the others looked at each other in dismay. Thinking about how not being able to enter the vanguard battalion this time was a big blow to He Yen. Last night, he had drowned his sorrows in wine, but today, he was still so dejected. But thinking about it again, his sorrows were really worth it. Other people were only willing to spend a few handfuls of rice wine, but he had spent a few hundred taels of silver. If he still couldn't get rid of his sorrows, he would have to spend a lot of money to get revenge. Just when they didn't know what to do, someone's voice broke the silence. Big brother He. Big brother He, so you're here. Qingli Su ran over, panting. There were still beads of sweat on her forehead. She must have run all the way here. Within a day, this was the second time He Yen had seen him. But as soon as she saw him, she remembered that she had offended Xiao Ju last night. She suddenly felt a headache. He Yen raised her head and asked listlessly, why are you here? I came to find you because I have something to discuss with you. Qingli Su looked at the people around her and pulled He Yen up. This isn't the place to talk. Big brother He, come with me. He was Xiao Ju's nephew, so the others naturally didn't dare to say anything. Even though they had yet to settle the score with the 18 immortals, they could only watch as Qingli Su pulled He Yen away. They stayed in place and stared at each other. He Yen was pulled along by Qingli Su and jogged all the way to where Qingli Su lived. He Yen didn't want to go in. He knew that Qingli Su lived next door to Xiao Ju. If he went in and bumped into her, wouldn't it be awkward if their eyes met? Qingli Su's brain was finally smart for once. Seeing that He Yen had a difficult expression and was not willing to move, she said considerately, don't worry, my uncle went out. There's no one here. Hearing this, He Yen walked in with her. Once inside, Qingli Su looked around and then closed all the doors and windows. It was as if she was going to talk about murder and arson. Seeing her like this, He Yen was speechless. You didn't come to find me to talk about your uncle again, did you? He Yen greeted her in advance. Little brother Cheng, thank you for your concern, but I really don't want to hear any news about him recently. Please leave some face for her. Just as she finished speaking, she felt someone press her shoulder. Qingli Su turned her around and grabbed her hand tightly, pressing it against his chest. He Yen almost punched this person out of reflex. She suppressed her impulse to hit him. Although she had interacted with many men, most of them had their arms around each other's shoulders. It was very awkward to have their fingers intertwined like this. However, the young man in front of her had a clear expression. He didn't seem to realize that his actions had caused a misunderstanding. However, in his eyes, there was nothing to hide when two men were like this. Big brother, please save little brother. Qingli Su said miserably. What happened to you? He Yen asked. Promise me that you'll help little brother. Otherwise, big brother, you won't be able to see little brother in the future. It's that serious? He Yen asked, but in his heart, he didn't think much of it. Qingli Su had always loved to exaggerate. Even the slightest thing could be described as shocking. Moreover, if something really happened, his uncle was a little Jew. He would naturally help him plan. Tell me what happened first. Only then can I help you think of a solution. Big brother, do you remember that I once told you that I ran away from an arranged marriage? My family wanted to arrange a marriage for me. I really didn't want to, so I begged uncle to bring me to Liangzhou. Qingli Su said sadly, now, my family still won't let me go. The old master's colleague that they picked for me is now in Liangzhou. He sent an invitation to my uncle, asking him to attend the banquet with me. Heavens, I'm just a boy with no official position and no reputation. Why did they specifically write my name on the invitation? It's obvious that they're plotting against me. They want to kidnap me while I'm here. He made it sound like he was trying to kidnap a girl. The only thing he didn't do was go to the yamen and beat the drum. It's not that bad, He Yen said. If you don't want to leave, your uncle will naturally protect you. Can they forcefully take you away in front of your uncle? Qingli Su didn't know if little Ju would really watch as he was taken away. Maybe she would even be happy to get rid of this burden. He coughed softly and said, Big brother, you know that my mother has always been critical of my uncle. If he comes out for me, won't he be putting himself in a bad situation? My mother will hate him to death. I don't want to bring trouble to him. He didn't expect Qingli Su to be so protective of his uncle. He Yen sighed in his heart. It seemed that this was the family relationship of blood. No matter what, it couldn't be changed. Then what do you want me to do? She asked, do you want me to help you beat up that official? Beating up an official is against the law. What are you thinking, big brother? Qingli Su let go of his hand, I'm not that kind of violent person. I'm thinking that official hasn't seen me before and doesn't know what I look like. Big brother, we're about the same age, handsome, and have similar figures. Why don't you go to the banquet in my place? If that official wants his subordinates to catch me, with your skills, you can easily escape. If they can't catch me, it's their problem. They can't blame my uncle. You want me to go in your place? He Yen said, no. She turned around and wanted to leave. For some reason, she felt conflicted. Another substitute. In her previous life, she was He Rufei's substitute. Now that she could finally use her own name, why did she have to be someone else's substitute? The heavens were purposely trying to make things difficult for her. Big brother, Qingli Su cried out heartbreakingly, you really can't leave me in the lurch. Think about it. If you go to the banquet with uncle and stay by his side, you'll see him day and night. If you do a better job, uncle will see how considerate you are and change his opinion of you. Moreover, you're standing up for his nephew. Uncle will be grateful to you. Maybe he'll let you go to the 9 Flags Battalion. He Yen was speechless. Qingli Su was really willing to say anything just to avoid going to the banquet. Xiao Ju was not someone who would buy favors. If she stayed by Xiao Ju's side day and night, she might even provoke Xiao Ju's anger. If she did anything wrong, she would really be out of the game. Seeing that she was determined not to help, Qingli Su collapsed on the ground. She pointed at the top of her head and shouted, God, why are you doing this to me? Yuan Baozhen, what kind of deep hatred did I have with you in my previous life? Why do you have to push me into the fire pit again and again? He Yen was about to leave and was already at the door. When she heard what Qingli Su said, she stopped and turned around, did you just say? Yuan Baozhen? Yes, Qingli Su looked at her and answered subconsciously, the official who ruined my engagement is the current imperial censor Yuan Baozhen. He Yan's eyebrows twitched. After a moment, she walked quickly to Qingli Su and extended a hand to the youth who was sitting on the ground. Stop crying. Isn't it just going to the banquet? I'll help you. Chapter 88. Qingli Su didn't dare to believe her ears when she suddenly received a promise. Only when He Yen repeated it several times and swore to the heavens did Qingli Su believe that he really wanted to help her. She poured a cup of tea for He Yen and offered it with both hands. Good big brother, you really saved little brother's life. In the future, if you need my help in any way, even if I have to climb a mountain of swords or dive into a sea of fire, little brother will not refuse. He Yen was about to speak when Qingli immediately continued, I know that big brother's wish is to enter the Nine Flags Battalion and make a name for yourself. Don't worry, once this matter is over, I will definitely put in a good word for you in front of my uncle every day. Even if I have to copy books every day, I will help big brother settle this matter. What I want to say is, He Yen stopped the child's ecstasy, I have agreed to go to the banquet in your place, but you still have to convince your uncle. Was Xiao Ju someone who would agree so easily? After all, this matter sounded quite unimaginable. Don't worry about that. Qingli Su happily came over and said, I already talked to my uncle before. I only dared to come to you after my uncle agreed. Xiao Ju agreed. He Yen was stunned. Perhaps she feels guilty for not letting you enter the Nine Flags Battalion before, so she wants to give you a chance to prove yourself. Qingli Su looked at He Yen sincerely. So you see, big brother, you going to the banquet in my place is God's arrangement. He Yen didn't have time to pay attention to Qingli Su's nonsense. He was just surprised that Xiao Ju agreed so easily. This wasn't his style of doing things. Could it be that there was another trap? Seeing that He Yen was silent, Qingli Su became anxious again. Big brother, are you going back on your word? No, He Yen said helplessly, I'm just thinking about how to pretend to be you. After all, I'm different from you. Don't worry, that Yuan Baozhen hasn't seen my appearance, so he won't expose me. However, I still need to explain some things to you so that you won't find out. I love mushroom chicken the most, and I hate rice porridge the most. She didn't like people following her around. If she ate peanuts, she would have a rash on her face. I have to bathe every day, change my clothes frequently, and use some incense. He Yen only saw the extravagant and luxurious life of a rich man's son. He shook his head unconsciously. Qingli Su talked for the time it took for a joss stick to burn. She talked until her mouth and tongue were dry before she stopped. She picked up the teacup and quickly moistened her throat. Only then did she come back to her senses. Big brother, did you remember what I said just now? He Yen. I'll remember. She said, if there's anything else you want to tell me, say it all. Let me think about it. Qingli Su sat on the chair and looked at He Yen. He Yen was about the same age as him. His appearance was already outstanding among the new recruits of Liang province. However, he didn't seem to be clumsy or strong at all. Instead, he seemed to be a little thin and weak. However, this was just right for him. If he was dressed like a rich man's son, I almost forgot something important. Qingli Su slapped her forehead. You can't go to the banquet dressed like this. In any case, I'm the young master of the right minister's residence. How can I dress so shabbily? Just you wait. He ran into the inner room and fiddled with something. Not long after, he came out with a bundle. These are some clothes I picked out. Take them and wear them. Our figures aren't too different, so you should be able to wear them all. Even if they're fake, big brother, you should still wear them. Other than my good looks, I don't have any other good points. If even this good point is forgotten, then wouldn't I be completely useless? He Yen couldn't help but sigh in amazement at the way he described the embroidered pillow, as if he was in the right. He turned around and took out a small box from the drawer. He put some things in it and handed it to He Yen. These are some hairpins, fans, jade pendants, and so on. If you want to put on an act, you have to put on a good show. These are necessary. He Yen said, you're really thoughtful. Qingli Su scratched her head in embarrassment. You flatter me, you flatter me. He Yen put away the bundle and box, then asked, did you really talk to your uncle? You didn't lie to me, did you? No, no, Qingli Su said, come here tomorrow morning at 7 in the morning. We can probably set off then. So soon. He Yan was surprised. Originally, it was going to take a few days. Yuan Baozhen hasn't arrived in Liang province yet. However, uncle needs to go to the city first to find a craftsman to repair his evening fragrance zither. That's why we have to go earlier. He Yan thought about the zither he had crushed and fell silent. Qing Lisu patted him on the shoulder. Big brother I'm counting on you this time. Thank you. He Yan carried a bundle full of things back to the new recruit's bunk. Wang Ba and the others had not left yet. They were eating the moon balls that He Yan had brought from Qing Lisu last night. Seeing He Yan come back with things in his hands, Wang Ba said sourly, "Oh, you went to receive filial piety again? Did young Master Qing give you food again?" Xiao Mai stared at the bundle in He Yan's hands. She was almost drooling. What's so delicious in such a big bundle? He Yan slammed the cloth bundle on the table. The cloth bundle was loosely tied, so when it fell apart, it revealed the things inside. It was not the food that everyone expected. It was actually some clothes and accessories. This was unexpected. After a while, Hong Shan asked hesitantly, why did young Master Qing give you clothes? We can't wear normal clothes in the military camp. I'm going to the city with military governor Xiao tomorrow. He Yan said, he's probably afraid that I'll embarrass military governor Xiao if I dress too shabbily. That's why young Master Qing specially gave me some clothes to decorate my appearance. You and military governor Xiao? Huang Xiong looked at him. This is a good thing. Why do you look so unhappy? If last night's incident did not happen, He Yan would also be very happy. After all, he could get a lot of information from Xiao Ju. But after last night's incident, he was afraid that Xiao Ju would dislike him even more. Who knew if he did something wrong and angered this second young master? He could only brace himself for now. I'm so happy that I don't know what expression to make. He Yan answered. Everyone surrounded him and asked him a lot of questions. Finally, he managed to get everyone to leave. When night fell, He Yan was still thinking about this matter before he went to bed. The reason why he agreed to help Qing Lisu attend that troublesome banquet was, of course, not because he and Qing Lisu were close brothers, nor was he so chivalrous. He only agreed because he heard Yuan Baozhen's name. He Yan had seen Yuan Baozhen before. When she was conferred the title of General Feihong, He Rufei received the reward on her behalf. After He Yan became his daughter, he had seen this person once at the He family. At that time, Yuan Baozhen was standing with He Yuansheng and his son. He Yan had even bowed to him. Looking at the way He Rufei spoke to him, it seemed like they were very close. He Yan had thought at that time that He Rufei had just received the reward. In reality, he wasn't very close to his colleagues in the Shuajing imperial court. He didn't expect that he would have a close friend so quickly. Now that He Rufei's friend had come to Liangzhou, it just so happened that he had a bit of a relationship with Qing Lisu. If he could take this opportunity to get close to He Rufei and find out some information, perhaps it would be helpful for his future. If he wanted to stand out and reach a position where people would listen to him, he needed to make some contributions in the military. However, Liangzhou was thousands of li away from the capital. It was also too far away from the He family, so a lot of information couldn't be transmitted over. Yuan Baozhen's arrival in Liangzhou could be considered a pillow delivered to him when he was sleepy. However, he didn't know what Xiao Ju's intentions were. He actually agreed to Qing Lisu's inconceivable method. He Yan couldn't understand Xiao Ju anymore. He thought that he would pick him to enter the vanguard battalion, but he picked Lei Ho. He thought that he wouldn't let him pretend to be Qing Lisu, but he actually agreed. Next to him, he heard the sound of someone snoring in Hongshan. He Yan turned over and closed his eyes. Forget it. Since he couldn't figure it out, he would just follow him personally. Along the way, he had plenty of time to figure out what Xiao Ju was thinking. He would deal with whatever came his way. He Yan wasn't necessarily afraid. In contrast to He Yan's carefreeness, in the Yangzhou City Guard Station, Shen Han's face was full of astonishment. After a moment, the astonishment on his face turned into anxiety. "Commander, how could you bring He Yan into the city? His identity is still unknown. If he follows you, if he makes a move against you, I won't be threatened by him," Xiao Ju said. But, the candlelight in the silver lamp on the table flickered in the wind, almost going out. He flicked the wick, and the room lit up again. "If he's one of Su Jingfu's men, he might give himself away if he comes with me to the banquet. If he's in the guard station, you might not be able to handle him. It's safer to keep him by my side." Moreover, he curled his lips, He Yan boasts that his skills are extraordinary. This banquet at Hongmen can be used as a stepping stone. Shen Han's heart trembled. Xiao Ju wanted to use He Yan as a scapegoat. Military Governor Xiao was still the same old Military Governor Xiao. He didn't even care about their past relationship. He Yan didn't know how he had angered Xiao Ju in the past. Thinking of this, Shen Han felt a trace of sympathy for He Yan. Xiao Ju said, "After I leave tomorrow, protect Cheng Lisu well. Don't let him run around. I'll leave all the matters in the guard station to you for the time being." Shen Han put away his fanciful thoughts and said, "Yes." The next morning, when Xiao Mai woke up, he found that the bed next to him was empty. He rubbed his eyes. It was still early, and the other people in the room hadn't woken up yet. He Yan's bedding was neatly folded, but he was nowhere to be seen. Mai Tai asked curiously. Could it be that He Yan had already left? But didn't he say yesterday that he would only depart at 7 in the morning? It wasn't time yet. After a while, everyone woke up one after another and found that He Yan was gone. Hong Shan said, "That kid didn't leave just like that, right? He didn't even say goodbye. Did he leave because he was afraid of waking us up?" Xiao Mai probed. "Who knows? Sure too, have you seen him before?" Hong Shan asked. Sure Tu shook his head, "No." The few of them looked at each other in dismay, all of them confused. That being said, they couldn't just wait for He Yan here. They still had to run later, so they all got up and washed their faces. Xiao Mai had already put on his clothes and was the first to clean up. He pushed the door open and ran out, intending to grab the hot biscuits. Shi Tu and Hong Shan were still washing their faces when they suddenly heard Xiao Mai shouting outside, "Big brother, Brother Shan, what's wrong now?" Hong Shan wiped the water droplets off his face. "We're washing our faces. Come out and see." Xiao Mai couldn't suppress the excitement in his voice. Hong Shan looked at Shi Tu in confusion. Shi Tu expressed that he didn't know either. He shook the water off his hands and walked out of the room, saying, "Xiao Mai, next time can you not be so?" His voice came to an abrupt halt. He Yan stood facing him and said with a smile, "Brother Shan, how do I look?" Hong Shan opened his mouth but didn't say anything for a moment. The other recruits in the room also came out one after another at this moment. When they saw He Yan, they all surrounded him with a "walla" sound, talking all at once. "You look good. He Yan, you look like a young master from a rich family in the capital. Not just a young master from a rich family. I think it wouldn't be wrong to say that he's from the palace." "Forget it. You're talking as if you've seen someone from the palace." "I haven't, but I imagine someone from the palace looks like this. These clothes aren't cheap. He Yan, can I wear them too?" "Bah! Can you wear them? Don't ruin the clothes. Go away." He Yan was surrounded by the crowd, allowing them to size him up. Hong Shan and the others stood at a distance. Xiao Mai looked at He Yan with sparkling eyes and said, "He Gu is so good-looking. No wonder it's said that clothes make the man, and saddles make the horse. Look, you usually don't show off, but when you wear these little clothes and hairpins, you look different from us." Hong Shan touched his chin and asked Stone, "Isn't that right?" Shi Tu nodded. "Yes." He Yan let them size him up. Then, She adjusted the bag on her shoulders and said with a smile, "Before I leave, I still want to show you all. My brothers all say that I look good, so I'm relieved. I won't embarrass the Liangzhou guards." She waved her hand and said, "Then I'm leaving." Everyone waved goodbye to her. While she was saying her goodbyes, Qing Lisu had also left the house early. Shen Han was talking to Xiao Zhu in the courtyard. Green Ear was eating grass with his head down. Qing Lisu went to the stable last night to choose a beautiful red horse. She felt that the horse looked cute and smart, and was a good match for her. "You're not going, so why are you choosing a horse?" Xiao Zhu didn't comment. "Although I'm not going, my eldest brother is going on behalf of me. I can't let people say behind my back that the young master of the right minister's residence is good at martial arts, but he doesn't look good. They say that we should play to our strengths and avoid our weaknesses. I only have one strength, so of course, I have to play to it." Xiao Zhu sneered, "What should we do? With your eldest brother's looks, he can't help you grow." "Uncle, you're wrong." Qing Lisu looked at him seriously. "I've looked carefully. My eldest brother is not bad. Although he can't be compared to you and me, he can be considered outstanding in the Liang province guards." Shen Han listened to the uncle and nephew chatting and was momentarily speechless. Just as they were talking, they saw someone coming in front of them. He said, "He Yan is here." The two people who were talking turned their heads to look, and their eyes lit up. It was an autumn morning, and the air was clear. The cool autumn wind blew, refreshing the heart. The sun had not completely risen, and only a small head peeked out. A ray of golden light fell on the youth's body, making her stand out. The youth wore a dark red brocade robe with a cicada pattern and a belt around her waist. Normally, she was too thin and weak. Wearing Qing Lisu's clothes, her weakness was completely hidden, leaving only her elegance. She was born delicate and pretty. With her long hair tied up with a carved wooden hairpin, she looked fresh and energetic. Her footsteps were leisurely, and she carried a bag. She was completely different from the sweaty new recruits on the training field. She was the living image of an elegant youth in the capital's academy. Her every frown and smile was poetic. The youth walked in front of them and opened the fan in her hand with a "pa" sound. The fan fluttered elegantly, and her smile was even more eye-catching than the landscape painting on the fan. She deliberately lowered her voice. "Sorry, I'm late." Qing Lisu stared at him with wide eyes. After a while, she finally regained her senses. She circled around He Yan and was unable to contain her joy. "Eldest brother, I didn't expect you to be such a handsome man. The Liang province guards have really buried your charm. Looking at you now, you're almost catching up to me." He Yan was pleased with himself, but he still said humbly, "You're too kind. You're too kind." She went to the riverside early in the morning and changed her clothes when no one was around. Qing Lisu's clothes were mostly yellow. This youth loved bright colors, but He Yan felt that it was a bit frivolous. It wasn't easy for her to find a color that wasn't so flashy. She also picked out a simple hairpin from the box. She stood by the riverside and looked at the surface of the river for a long time. In order to ensure that nothing unexpected happened, she even showed it to Hong Shan and the others. The new recruits of the Liang province guards all applauded. She thought that it wasn't bad. In her previous life, when she disguised herself as a man, she had no choice but to wear a mask. Now that she could openly look like a young master, she felt a strange sense of nervousness. Shen Han looked at He Yan from the side and sucked in a breath of cold air in his heart. He originally thought that He Yan was just a youth. Even if he had feelings for Xiao Zhu in the past, how could he have caught Xiao Zhu's eye? After all, there were countless beautiful women who admired Xiao Zhu. Now that he saw He Yan like this, he understood a little. It was normal for a woman to be so beautiful, but it was rare for a man to be so beautiful. Moreover, this youth's skills were outstanding and his temperament was good. If it wasn't for his identity being suspicious, in fact, it wouldn't be strange for him to stand together with military governor Xiao. Qing Lisu was still talking endlessly. He Yan looked at Xiao Ju and saw that Xiao Ju was still standing in the same place. Her gaze swept over him calmly, without the slightest hint of appreciation. He immediately felt mischievous and walked over to Xiao Ju's side. Military governor. She half opened her folding fan and covered her face as she laughed softly. She looked like a lecher who was teasing a woman from a good family. What do you think of me? The young man looked at her indifferently. After a moment, he bent down slightly and lowered his head until it was almost at her ear. His voice was lower and hoarser than normal youths when he was young. Now that he was older, there was a hint of laziness and magnetism in his voice. You actually, He Yen seemed to be able to feel the other's hot breath by his ear. He Yen inexplicably felt his face blush. He thought to himself, to hear this face praise someone with this kind of tone, not everyone could withstand it. You're even shorter than Qing Lisu. He finished the rest of his sentence. He Yen took 2 steps back and looked at him in disbelief. Shouldn't normal people say, you're actually so eye-catching, or you're actually so stunning? Shorter than Qing Lisu. The handsome young man looked as if he didn't think he was bad enough. He looked at her and curled his lips. Also, you're wearing your belt the wrong way. He brushed past her and walked forward. He Yen looked down. Qing Lisu's clothes were complicated. She had never worn this kind of clothes before and didn't know how to tie it. Now that she heard the reminder, she hurriedly undid it. When Qing Lisu saw this, she finally understood and came over to help. Ah, I forgot to tell you. My belt is different from other people's. You have to tie it like this. He Yen looked at Xiao Ju's back and gritted his teeth. Xiao Ju definitely didn't let her be Qing Lisu's substitute because he felt guilty towards her during the battle for the flag. He Yen seriously suspected that he brought her along just to make it easier for him to humiliate and torture her. They were really born to be enemies. The Liangzhou guards arrived at the city and rode non-stop. It took about 6 hours. They set out in the morning and arrived in the afternoon. Other than He Yen and Xiao Ju, there was also a guard named Fei Nu, probably because she wasn't the real Qing Lisu. They didn't even need a carriage. They rode all the way and didn't even have time to eat. They finally arrived at the city in the afternoon. The last time He Yen came to Liangzhou City, he had just arrived with the new recruits from Shuajing. However, he didn't stop in the city and went directly to the guard station at the foot of Mount Baiyue. Now, she changed into the clothes of a normal young master and came to the bustling city. Unlike Shuajing, Liangzhou had a different style. This place was in the east and had 4 distinct seasons. Although it wasn't as prosperous as the capital, it could still be considered lively. People came and went hurriedly. In the city, they didn't have to ride as fast. He Yen looked around as he walked and felt that he couldn't get enough of it. However, Xiao Ju didn't come to the city to sightsee. They arrived at an inn. This inn looked like it was one of the most luxurious in Liangzhou City. It had 3 floors. The exterior was decorated magnificently. When they arrived at the entrance of the inn, Xiao Ju dismounted from her horse. The waiter helped lead the horse to the stable and they walked into the main hall together. To be honest, although He Yen was the eldest young master of the He family, he had never stayed in a particularly expensive inn. Xiao Ju was as extravagant as his nephew. Even the place to rest was so particular. He Yen was thinking this when he heard Xiao Ju say to the innkeeper, 2 rooms. 2 rooms? He Yen was surprised. I'll share a room with Fei Nu. It wasn't easy for her to leave the barracks. Couldn't she have a room by herself? Qing Lisu also told her to bathe every day. How could she bathe with Fei Nu in the room? Or else? Xiao Ju stared at her and asked, you want to share a room with me? No, He Yen said, then I'll share a room with Fei Nu. What a joke. She wasn't that ignorant. After all, second young master Xiao was as pure as ice and as pure as jade. How could he share a room with such a crude person like her? He Yen silently cursed. Second young master Xiao should live with the bodhisattva in the temple. Just put an incense burner in front of him and he would be worshipped. Xiao Ju ignored him. The innkeeper took the money and ordered people to clean up the rooms. Since the morning, the three of them hadn't eaten lunch. They could eat on the first floor of the inn, so they planned to eat here before going upstairs. The innkeeper could probably tell that Xiao Ju was either rich or noble. He stood at their table and said, "Our signature dishes are green bean noodles, steamed 5-flavored gluten, spicy shredded tripe, sesame rolls, wild duck with 8 treasures, shredded chicken with cucumber, spicy pigeon. What would you like to order?" Before Xiao Ju could speak, He Yen asked loudly, "Innkeeper, do you have mushroom chicken?" "Yes, yes," the innkeeper quickly replied. Xiao Ju turned her head and looked at her calmly. He Yen blinked. "What's wrong, uncle? You know that mushroom chicken is my favorite dish." Fei knew, Qing Lisu had told her that she had to be thorough when putting on an act. Now that she was in Liangzhou City, she was no longer He Yen. She was Qing Lisu, second young master Zhao's nephew. Was it wrong for her nephew to want to eat her favorite dish? Absolutely not. Xiao Ju looked away and said, "Give him mushroom chicken." Why was she so easy to talk to? He Yan's heart skipped a beat. That's right, what if she met someone she knew here? Xiao Ju couldn't deny it in front of outsiders. This time, He Yan's courage grew. She had been eating dry biscuits for so many days in the Guard Institute and had only tasted meat a few times. Since she seized this opportunity and Xiao Ju did not lack money, wouldn't she be letting herself down if she didn't ruthlessly take advantage of this fat sheep? "Uncle." He Yan's voice was crisp and sweet. She smiled and said, "I also want to eat spicy tripe, sesame rolls, wild duck with 8 treasures, shredded chicken and cucumber, steamed gluten with 5 flavors, pigeon, and what's that, mung bean noodles. I want to eat all of them." Fei Nu's lips moved. She wanted to say something, but she held herself back. It had been a long time since she met someone who wasn't afraid of death. The innkeeper was surprised at first, but then he smiled happily. He looked at He Yen as if he was looking at the god of fortune. He said to Xiao Ju, "This young master has good taste. He really believes in our inn's dishes." "My apologies," Xiao Ju laughed lightly. His movements were graceful, but his tone was harsh and sarcastic. He said lightly, "My nephew has not seen the world. I'm sorry for making a fool of myself. He Yen, give me a portion of each dish." Second young master Xiao spent money like it was dirt. The innkeeper was overjoyed. He turned around and ordered the kitchen to prepare the dishes. He Yen originally wanted to tease him. He thought that it would be good enough if he could eat a few of the dishes. He didn't expect Xiao Ju to be so obedient and really order a portion of each dish. Could it be that Qing Lisu was usually so favored by her uncle? He was simply going crazy and getting whatever he wanted. Even He Yen was a little jealous. She moved closer to Xiao Ju and asked carefully, "Commander-in-Chief, why are you so easy to talk to?" "Why?" Xiao Ju said lightly, "As an uncle, of course I can't let my nephew go hungry." This uncle really had a deep meaning behind it. He Yen pondered and pondered, but he felt that something wasn't right. She and Xiao Ju were of the same generation. They were schoolmates in the past. Later on, they both became generals and were equally famous. But in this life, she first became Xiao Ju's soldier and called him commander-in-chief. Now, she was Xiao Ju's nephew. Even her seniority was lower than his. Xiao Ju took advantage of this. She remained silent. She didn't want to call him Xiao Ju anymore. Who knew that teasing Xiao Ju would cause her to lose out? She was really one step behind. The innkeeper's dishes were not good, but he cooked quickly. Not long after, all the dishes were served and filled the entire table. They were so extravagant that the people around them looked at them. He Yen felt a little embarrassed and said, Commander-in-Chief, I'm sorry for the expense. Since you want to eat it, of course you have to eat it, Xiao Zhu said slowly, but I've taught you before. Simple rules lead to prosperity. Indulgence leads to death. Don't waste it. He Yen felt that something was wrong. Just as he was about to speak, he heard the person in front of him say, if there's a grain of rice left, you can forget about eating tomorrow. He Yen, you're tuning in to the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.